If you can see body language and so on.
Right.
I would have a trouble with...
But does that make a difference? Would it make a difference if you could see my hair or not? I mean,
no, strangely enough, probably not. But it does make a difference if I can see your face.
Absolutely, and that's where I agree with you. I do think that covering the face it does leave women at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So in regards to face veil,
it's not mandatory anyway to cover the face.
Which then means that what's literally written in the Qur'an is
not... but that's not what's written in the Qur'an, right? So the Qur'an actually doesn't mention specific rules about modesty.
Content over everything!
It just calls for modest dress for both men and women, right?
No, for women there is specific rules in the Quran.
There's one ruling for women that requires them to cover their chests,
their head and their necks. The head covering come from the head down to the bosom.
Okay. So there is that, but there are no kind of specific rules about like women wearing a face veil or.
Okay. And
unfortunately, there's a lot of
the
ideas.
Muslim women I'm seeing wearing face veils are mistaken.
That's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing.
It's not a religious thing.
Sister, you accept Hadith, by the way, if I may know?
They seem to think it's a religious thing. Are they wrong?
My sister, do you accept the Hadith, by the way, if I may know about you? Do you accept the Hadith of the Prophet, the teachings of the Prophet, which is outside the Quran, but it is authentic teachings of the Prophet Muhammad? Do you accept this?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so about the women dress, the Prophet specified how it is like, that it is not tight, that it can show the body features, and it's not very thin, that it can reveal what is under it. It has to be loose and not tight.
I mean, and there are narrations of of the Prophet, peace be upon him, that does outline what a woman or a man can and cannot wear, and
so if the rule is modest dress,
but there's nothing. I mean, so Hajj is kind of like the big pilgrimage that Muslims take at least once in their lifetime,
which is a good idea,
right? And women who attend the Hajj they're actually banned, like they can't wear the face veil. So you can't perform this holy pilgrimage with a face veil.
Okay.
So there's many instances where
unless you see you beautiful, maybe they'll say she will need to do.
I think even then there's so many other narrations where
just to let you know, there is another argument. But anyways, generally you're right, I would say.
Right. I mean, if there's another narration where the Prophet was with one of his companions who was staring at a woman.
Yes.
And
he turned his face away.
Instead of telling the woman to cover her face, he turned the head of his companion. And that's very important, right? Because it just goes to show that the face veil really
that
is...
sounds like a good sign.
There is an argument on this, just about the face veil question. But we agree in minimum that the body can be covered except the face and the hands.
Women should cover their face, but I think there's more evidence to suggest... I mean, there's a lot more evidence to suggest.
I can buy the idea of modest dress, I think modest dress equal then between
but
men and
modest
women.
Can vary.
That sounds to make sense. To me, the
this
ideal
sister for a woman in bikini is very modest, so you know what I mean? But she's not doing the hair cover, so I would say this is modest. But according to the Quran, she still needs to cover the hair to the Quranic standard for modesty.
You
see what I mean?
Might be a bit lost
no. What I'm saying is, if you say just modest,
but she's got to cover her hair.
Because modesty will be different from person to another. What you see modest, what I see modest, others see no. It's not modest. You need to cover more.
We have religions to actually point out.
We will need guidance, and the Quran specified about this for women in particular, and the Hadith also specified for women in particular how it is like. That in minimum, the head and the whole body. The face can be showed, the hands can be showed, but the rest of the women body is mentioned in Quran and Hadith. It is to be covered. You know?
I get it says that.
And we cannot say just modesty, because modesty can vary from each individual opinion about what is modest.
But you can say that about everything is a matter of opinion. We're trying to ground it in external reality. I think your vitra is best achieved. Actually, this may sound weird. I think our vitra, collective vitra, is best achieved if we could just all walk around naked together. Actually.
Oh wow.
Okay. I actually think if we
I think you'll be a very minority in this one.
In a kind of non-judgmental, blah blah blah, and a non-sexualized way
as
well.
Clothes makes us look nicer, in fact.
I think that would be us achieving our higher nature, because we'll be seeing things truthfully, without covering, and would work.
But I feel like there's a lack of. That's a very hubristic point of view to come from, because
it's fairly extreme, I know. But
well, because you're kind of claiming to know that you understand human nature's desire, and that you think that the way to best kind of capitalize, or not capitalize is the wrong word, but the best way to kind of utilize that desire would be for us all to walk around without any clothes on. And I think the idea of fitra comes from the idea that that God as our creator knows us best, and that his revelation to us is the best sort of guideline for us all to follow, and that by following that guideline we are achieving kind of the best, the divine way of life, the way of life that was spelled out, you know.
If you accept that the book has been written literally,
Yes.
then I'd have
For
to.
those who accept-
but not
line of
just
thought
literally,
goes.
but not just literally, right? Like
Not
it's
literally all
also-
the time.
also
When I
just-
say walk around naked, what I mean really is this: that we all could do that and function well. I don't think that we should have to.
I don't.
It's not the
but
point.
that's where I think you're wrong. I don't think.
We'll
we
feel
can
cold as
function
well in this temperature.
Okay, and what I'm saying is, if you could function well doing that, you would be a far more accomplished individual than if you couldn't. The act of being able to do that functionally, and you like functionality, if we could, we would be far more high-achieving, Vitra-achieving people than if we couldn't, because when we took our clothes off, we all fell apart into chaos. Of those two kind of human beings,
I mean,
the one who can
I don't think
function
it's one
without.
extreme or the other either. I don't think that, you know, we'd fall into chaos if we all took our clothes off. I just think that would be a subpar level of.
Yeah, it would be subpar.
Right.
So to me, the most robust human being is one who can handle nakedness and still function with equanimity
But
and all of those things.
So it sounds like robustness, as defined by you, is
Vitra.
your fitra, right?
No, I think the Vitra aspires to
What does
us
Vitra mean?
achieving our potential, which would be to be robust, to be functional, to see clearly,
You
to
need
be
to feel warm
inclusive,
to
and
be
so on.
functional.
And the more you have to cover yourself with protective stuff, the less robust you are.
But that's your kind of value judgment on
Yeah,
on
but
that.
I know, but
right?
it may be
So-
incorrect.
Maybe for your
I know
concept-
because we've
Right.
had this thing where people go, it's your value judgment to neutralise it.
Right.
That's my value judgment. It's now out there.
Will
for
you do it
comparison with other
once
ones.
by
I think
yourself?
It's a pretty strong one. Obviously, you
Will you
disagree.
do
And I would have
it?
to
You will go
disagree
naked at some
as a-
point?
I have been naked with other naked people before in an
But this is in
environment like that.
secluded areas and it is
There was about
organized
50 there was
events.
about 50 people in a
Yeah.
room naked.
Yeah, so but in real life, will you do it?
Well, that was real life. But I
No,
wouldn't.
no, I know, but it is organized events.
It's like a lot of things. It's like swearing, for example. Yeah. I think, well, Nietzsche said this. You need. It's not that you do the thing. There's no virtue in behaving politely, for example, if you're only
In
capable
Islam,
of
we believe
behaving
there is.
politely. There's no virtue in not swearing if you're too afraid to say swear words. The virtue in not doing those things is because you could choose. There's no virtue in me not killing people if I'm too frightened to do it. The virtue of me not killing people comes when I could and I choose not to, yeah? So you need to have those things at your disposal as free choices and then make the free choice to behave well. Otherwise, you're just being a robot and there has no morality to it, yeah?
But you can't give
Okay.
absolute choice to people because they won't choose what is more beneficial to themselves. They
what?
will not always understand what is more beneficial for themselves.
No, it's a learning process and people will keep crashing and burning in the learning process, yeah,
The
clearly.
thing is, we learn with the mistakes of the past. That's how humans have evolved.
Yeah.
And if we consider completely disregard the things that the ancestors have learned,
I'm not suggesting that for 1 minute.
Well,
I
you're
think you should
saying that
definitely
it's,
learn from history. But even by learning from history, you'll reduce the amount of crashing and burning. But the learning process is one of climbing slippery slopes, falling sometimes, having problems. But we're reducing the problems and we're getting better. Yeah, but we're still going to. Of
course.
That's what
But
I'm
about
suggesting.
clothes, I don't think we can simply deny the clothes. And the part of the reason for that.
No, I mean, in
is,
this weather,
is
we
that-
should definitely wear clothes. I'd just like to know that
Yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
could all
Yeah,
go
we could.
at some point. We could all go. Okay, even naked, we can function. We're okay. We accept each other. It's good. But now it's very practical to wear clothes. So let's do it.
But I think one of the main reasons for that, I can already see that most people won't agree with me, but it's because people need to lie.
Yes.
People need to conceal, to hide part of
Yes.
themselves to survive in a society with others. They can't use brutal truth. They can't be completely and utterly honest without any lies, without inevitably hurting someone.
That's very insightful. But then
And
the question.
humans need those lies, and they need the clothes to
Yeah.
hide part of what they are.
So the question, yeah, right. I think you're right. And you said there's a dark side to human nature. So I think knowing that we need to lie to an extent for social functionality, it's a matter of getting the balance right. If you lie too much, you end up with a very screwed up situation. If you don't lie at all, that would be ideal, but chances are our systems can't take it yet. But I think what you want to do is try and acclimatise towards being able to handle more and more truth. and it's a slow sliding
I
process.
wouldn't say.
But I mean, blinding truth straight in your face is probably more than anyone can take, and I think
Which
in the
is where
Bible it's not.
Right, and I think this is where religious traditions, offer an invaluable tool where
Yeah.
there's a lot of gray areas, but there's enough to kind of give you just like a basic kind of code of life,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, which is cool, which is good.
But that means that religion is a placebo to enforce the.
It's not a placebo if you believe that it was written by the divine. Sorry, I was just going to say
I mean,
that.
this is-
Okay, fine. But look, if you believe,
very
which
cold?
is fair
Sorry?
enough.
Are you very?
A little bit,
I
yeah.
have something that
it's
you
a very-
No, I'm fine, thank you. Though.
No,
It's
I
a
mean
very
it's in
fair
here,
point.
which
I think I'm good. Yeah, I promise.
It's a
I just
very
need to
fair.
move around.
It's a very fair point to say that the religion, it encourages things that people should do. Because I gave this example many times before. And when you have a state, they have policemen around, and you tell the people don't steal, and they won't steal in front of the policemen. But then when nobody's looking, they'll start stealing.
but that's not all. Some people will. Yeah.
Most of them will.
I don't know
Most
about
of them will.
most.
It depends.
When you give people absolute freedom,
Okay, that therefore includes you. So if I give you absolute freedom, you're telling me, and you're confessing now, thank you, that you will be what? Stealing, definitely, killing?
I'm not confessing it. I don't know what would happen if
said-
I had absolute freedom, because I never had.
Okay, what's your
absolute
best
freedom.
bet about how you personally would be? My best bet.
If you gave me absolute freedom, you know what I would probably do? I would ask you to take it away. Because people
That's a
can't
very
have absolute-
profound thing to
because
say.
people
That's very
because people don't have mustn't have absolute freedom. People want to be shackled by something. And that is part of the reason why people need religion. I spoke to many people around here, and I told them, okay, in the end, all you're doing is for God. Every part of your being belongs to God. That means you're a slave to God.
Yeah.
But it's
And
good
what they
for us.
answered
Muslim
is,
response
yes,
would be
I'm a
yes. It is
slave.
good
I
for
want to
us
be
at the
an
same time.
a slave.
It is also good for us. What God wants for us, what God commands us, we also believe at the same time. It is all for God.
Right.
And we
And it's
also
all for our
equally
good
believe
because-
it is also very good for us.
It's a very bleak view
I'm
of
not,
human
I'm not an
nature, you
open
guys
attacker
have
of
got.
religion. I see
Yeah.
religion as a useful thing if it's
It
used
is-
correct.
It is useful if it is, and
it's
if you
used correct.
if you follow the authentic teachings of Islam, I would say, you wouldn't find something
That
you
word,
would
authentic.
argue with.
Because you're an atheist, yeah?
I'm not quite an atheist, no.
Oh, okay.
I want God to exist, but I believe
Yeah, me
we
too.
have
It's
absolutely
not you
no
want.
means.
It's either you want or not. It's not your decision.
It is. I can will God to exist, but it doesn't make him exist.
Can you will
Well,
yourself
then you
to
won't be
exist?
willing him to
Yes.
exist.
Can you make yourself not exist? Because you,
You
are
see,
the
this is
maker of
this is the
yourself.
problem. Many times I argue with Muslims and with Christians. The problem of the Christians is they don't actually listen to you too much, and they start giving you telling you
Muslims or the
things.
Christians?
No, the Christians.
Muslim.
No, the Christians.
Yeah.
When I argue with the Christians, they answer you to things you didn't ask them.
Okay.
They tell you different things. Now the Muslims, they really like using one simple thing, which is ridiculing the argument instead of proving the argument wrong. And
I never ridiculed it. I just
you're
said,
ridiculing the
You-
argument,
you said-
which is fine. It's fine. It's fine.
What's
If you
your
can
name?
Pavlo.
Ahmad. Nice to meet you.
The thing is, it's not necessarily a fallacy. It's just that I noticed it with
I'm
time.
sorry, you two are calm and we are a bit heated.
No, it's fine. No,
So would you like to continue before we start? So
I'm not-
because we
this
talk
guy's
over, I
saying
think.
we're like-
So they
like,
were,
The thing
they were
is,
in
I had
discussion.
another Muslim guy giving me the example of 1 + 1 = 2. And I told, why did he give me that example? Because I told him there are no absolute truths. You can't be absolutely 100% certain of anything. And he told me, okay, can you be not certain that 1 + 1 = 2? And now I'm looking at you. Well, I don't have any answer to
Okay.
that.
Okay.
But now I
So-
do. I didn't have an answer to
Is
that
this
before.
in itself, is it
What's
a
your answer?
truth?
The answer is really easy.
Yeah.
It's that one doesn't exist at
But
all.
I want to ask you, the statement,
One,
now
no,
we've got
listen,
interest.
listen, guys,
Yeah,
listen,
go
listen.
on.
I understand that you might start ridiculing the argument. But
No,
listen,
no, no, I'm
one
ridiculing.
doesn't exist if you don't give an object. One man, one camera, one hat, one car. Without the object, one is nothing. It's an imaginary number. And you put two objects together, and no two objects in the world are exactly and utterly the same.
Okay.
It just doesn't exist. Two exactly absolute
It was never
same
in the. It was
objects.
never a premise of the position that was the case.
The premise was 1 + 1 = 2, but
Yeah.
it's a complete fallacy because 1 by itself doesn't exist. You can
that
only
statement
speak.
you just
You can
made
only
is
speak of
way
one.
radical.
Listen, you can only speak of one if you call what the one is.
No, that
If the
doesn't
one-
follow.
Yes.
No,
You-
mathematics,
you have
pure
Mathematics is imaginary numbers.
Yeah.
You need to use mathematics by using it on specific
No,
things.
you say that, but the whole point of
That's
maths
how
is
you
that
use
you don't know.
mathematics.
You can use it that way. That doesn't mean it defines mathematics.
It does define mathematics. Mathematics was defined to measure the world around us, to have a better
That's the
understanding
raison
of the world.
d'etre for mathematics, but the method itself, the method itself uses physical objects to demonstrate its potency,
Exactly.
but its potency itself exists even when it doesn't demonstrate
Without the
it.
object, it doesn't exist.
No, you can't demonstrate it without the objects, but the potency and the cogency of maths pre-exist before it demonstrates. Oh, you think the potency and potency of maths only comes into existence after it's demonstrated?
If you don't have any object, you don't have maths. That's it.
Wow.
You need to have an object to apply maths to. You need to apply maths to the real world. If you don't apply it to the real world, to the world of bodies, to the physical world, it's summing and subtracting imaginary numbers. If you don't apply maths to actual things, it doesn't exist at all.
Are you aware of logical positivism?
Maths, just like measurements, like centimeters, meters, inches, they're all imaginary things we use to define the world, to measure the world around us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could argue that
Without the
everything...
world around us, they don't exist. It's as simple as that. Time doesn't exist without space. They are all intermingled together. Yeah, listen,
I'm not saying
this
that
might
they're
sound
not,
this might
but-
sound bad, but look,
sounds pretty bad,
seriously, one doesn't exist without you naming the one, without you saying what you're talking about, without you saying one thing, one leaf, one tree. It doesn't exist without that. What is one without the object? Tell me.
I think if you got a if you got a professional mathematician in here, they would so take you apart on what you're saying, because almost unique. Yeah, because
Why don't you
almost
take me apart?
No, because I'm not a professional mathematician, and therefore I'm looking at. But almost uniquely, maths is the facilitator of all the sciences. It is, strangely enough, the self-consistent set of laws that you can manipulate in your imagination to extrapolate axioms and principles with utility, and the process of then taking that to the lab and physically acting it out on physical objects is a great way of communicating it, proving it and endorsing it. But doing all of that is post priori, the opposite of a priori. The maths is a priori
posteriori.
to it. Thank you.
A
A
posteriori.
posteriori. Thank you. That is a posteriori to it. Maths itself is a priori to the demonstration of mathematical principle. You don't think so? That's part
Maths
before the
is a
whole.
measurement. Maths is a measurement that humans invented to understand the world better. Without the world, maths doesn't exist.
Without the world, nothing exists. That doesn't
Exactly.
mean that.
Without the objects, without humans to invent maths, it doesn't exist.
Okay, so we're in
rules
one of
still
those debates
function.
which is like, to what degree is maths invented and to what degree is maths discovered?
Yeah, more or less, not exactly.
No, that's a very important distinction, because clearly there's a level at which maths is invented. In different cultures at different times, you can see they've expressed it in different ways. On the other hand, to pretend that it's just a purely human invention which says nothing about the innate laws of the universe also seems to miss the point. It is to some extent the invention of a discovery. The laws of mathematics seem to be
The
hardwired
laws
into
are in
reality.
function. The laws themselves are in function. But maths, the symbols, the meanings of the symbols are a measurement. They are like language. Language is just a bunch of sounds, but we give meaning to those sounds because we, for example, if I say door, you imagine the door, because this specific amount of sounds that my mouth emits means is the description, is the name that we give to the physical object of a door.
Yeah, but
without the physical object of a door, the word door is nothing. It's just sound. It's just a bunch of syllables that I pronounce. It doesn't have any meaning. It needs the physical, the physical thing, the physical object to complete itself. And that's what I mean. The rules of maths exist. They are in practice in the world. But maths itself, the numbers, all the equations, they were invented by humans. They are a measurement made by humans to understand the world around them, to understand it better.
They are, clearly.
Well, I don't think we are disagreeing then.
But the whole point of a principle is that it can stand alone. It doesn't need to eternally demonstrate its validity through physical objects. It's an axiom which stands alone. You don't
agree
see that's
with
the
that.
case.
Listen, again, I want to make the distinction between maths itself, which is the numbers we know, all the symbols, all that stuff, all the rules, and the functionality.
Yeah.
The functionality of the world itself, it exists, but we don't understand it exactly as it is. Maths is being invented as we speak right now. We don't have the absolute version of maths. New equations, new rules are being made as humanity goes on.
You seem to use this line of logic to contravene the idea that 1 + 1 = 2. Your thinking seemed to go, he said to you, you said, show something I know for sure. He said 1 + 1 = 2. You said, no, that's not the case because...
I didn't say it because I didn't know how to give this example. I don't know how to give the explanation I'm giving to you. So I was kind of left speechless in the moment because
okay, fine.
I
but
didn't
then
think
on
it through
reflection,
enough.
you drew the conclusion that, no, you don't know 1 + 1 = 2, but the reason you don't know it was because no two objects, no two one objects
are exactly the same.
Are identical. Okay, now when you brought that notion into the discussion, you really jumped the shark as far as I'm concerned. You seem to think the fact that two objects have to be absolutely identical is a necessary tick box before you can add one, the concept one, and one is a concept.
Absolute
to
perfection,
another concept.
absolute perfect 1 + 1 is like that. If you want to be exact, that's how it is. And that's my point. Nothing is exact.
You think
you can't pinpoint exact
you
things.
think the one is literally about the object, whereas the number one is a representation for the object. It's a symbol for the object.
It's a symbol that represents the object, yes.
Correct. Okay, and the symbol exists. Symbol systems exist.
Yeah.
In the human mind, whether the object's there or not, and the human mind, that's the point
Yes,
of the
we
human
remember
mind
that
can
one is the
potently-
symbol that symbolizes one thing.
Right, and
but we
therefore-
need the thing, because
we
without
need
the
to-
thing, we don't have anything.
No, we need the thing.
We just have the symbol.
No, yeah, when you've got the symbol, I can then interact the symbols in my head
Yes, you can,
imaginatively.
but it's
to
an
come
empty
up with-
symbol. It's an
No,
imaginary
you
number.
say it's no, because it allows me to run hypothetical versions of mathematical
does, it
reality,
does.
where I can
It
test
does,
one against
yes,
another, come up with
yes.
new theorems. It has utility, and you're a big fan of utility.
Yes.
And I can do all of that without ever using a physical object.
Of course.
Okay, the physical object.
That's why we have the symbol to represent the object.
So the symbol maths is almost, I don't know about uniquely, but maths is one of those areas where
It's a
having the symbols
representation.
available to you gives you the tools, and you can do it all in your own mind.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And also, not only that, which I think invalidates what you said, also they may be a priori to reality themselves,
The symbols.
depending on
The
where
symbols
you come
are a posteriori to
from. It
reality.
depends on whether you believe in archetypes or not. Now, what I got from what you were saying before about morality and the fact that we need to be enslaved to a degree and controlled implies that you're coming from quite a Freudian kind of position. I don't know if that's within the stuff you think about.
That's not far from the truth.
Okay, right. Which means you've got a view of kind of the superego as being a necessary constraint on a kind of a destructive id that would otherwise run around and create chaos, yeah? And that's a
Not
pretty-
with, it doesn't work exactly the same way with everybody, but the
broad-
principle
broadly-
is more or
broadly
less
speaking,
the same.
yeah?
The
Okay.
principle.
And it was interesting that she concurred with that, even though I think she's in another discussion now. She concurred with your point of view, which is interesting because you're ostensibly more of an atheist, not quite, but you're
I'm
certain.
not an atheist, but I will God to exist. But I think that we can't know for absolute certainty how God is and what God
I
wants.
agree with that. No,
I don't think we can know.
That's epistemology.
But I want God to exist. I just don't think we can know
I
anything
wouldn't
about
argue
it.
with that, but then you're on epistemology, and when you get into epistemology, you realise realise you know virtually nothing anyway. So the fact you don't know God is no big surprise. I don't even know for sure that tree's there. I think it is, yeah?
True.
So the God thing is obviously...
The senses are flawed. That's why I
But
usually
it was
say
interesting
nothing is
that someone
absolutely
who's got
certain.
such a literal interpretation of religion and you, with the Freudian position, both shared a very bleak view of human nature, because juxtaposed with that, and it may not be the case if you've got more of a Jungian position, and this is what connects to maths, where his view would be that there are archetypal influences, so that the superego isn't just repressing you're not just burying your darker nature in the unconscious. The superego isn't just doing that. Also in the unconscious is a collective unconscious, which is a wellspring coming up, which contains archetypes.
That's the part I'm not certain if I should agree with Freud.
I agree.
That's the uncertainty in Freud's,
Well, this is where it might connect to maths, because when I'm talking about maths as being archetypal in the same sense that Jung might have talked about, it might exist at that kind of level. Now, I'm not saying that Jung is right and Freud is wrong, I don't know, but it's a discussion to be had, and if you fall more in the Freudian camp, you've got a bleak view of human nature. It may be true, but it's bleak.
I do have. But also, it's not a completely bleak, because there are tools that can be relatively easily used to basically omit the worst of humanity. To basically avoid it. It's not very hard. People have done it in the past many times. And overall, every civilization, even if they are really bad civilizations, like really destructive civilizations, they're not absolutely self and other destructive civilizations. They don't destroy themselves and the other. They don't do that.
If you want to play a fairly safe game, that's the safest game to play. If you want to get a little bit more ambitious and risky,
humanity
then you might
take
aim
sometimes steps
higher,
back, but it will usually walk forward. I think I have that.
I may be overreaching. I think you want to aim for the best you can. You seem to think the best that you can is probably just to repress your bad nature, and you may be right. I'm hoping that the best you can aim for is a bit better than that, and that the Jungian angle may have more credence, but I could be wrong. But
it's not quite to repress the bad nature of humans. I think the answer to that is to use the bad nature of humans. To use it. To use it, to divert it, to be able to grab the evil inside every person. I mean evil, I'm calling it evil. It's basically the self-destructive and the destructive desire to achieve what your id wants. The selfish desire to kill, to rape, to steal, to do whatever you want to achieve the primal desires. If we are able to grab that and to use it properly, to divert it in a certain way, to distort it enough to be able to use it as a kind of motivation to go on in our lives. For example, if you divert the id into reasonable ambition, for example, to be a great person, to achieve wealth, to build an empire, then I think it's perfectly reasonable to do it, because empires have improved the life of humans. The Roman Empire, for example, they did enslave many people, they did kill many people, but in the end they created a great civilization that made humanity go leagues beyond where they were. They made humanity evolve in the big big scheme.
It's a totally self-consistency is my measure of. You have to tick the box of self-consistency. Your position is, and you may be right. I'm hoping that human nature isn't as dark as you think. I'm also taking issue with your definition of the id. Again, you seem to be going, the id is about grabbing, killing, covetousness, all things bad.
It's not exactly that. It's the childish. It's the childish notion, which doesn't know bad or good. It just does whichever it whims to do. And what we whim to do is usually what is not so good for society, because, again, humans want to do what is forbidden. It's part of their own nature to desire what is forbidden, to seek what they don't know. It's not necessarily an evil thing to do, it's just kind of curiosity, it's kind of wanting more than what you have.
Well, I would ask, you're framing it in society terms with reference to what she was saying, I would say, is venting your id, to what extent is that you realising your vitra, which you would say is your goal and your potential? My problem when I came to Freudian psychology was, okay, you've got the id, ego, superego, And I asked the question, so where's the good bit?
What's the good bit?
Yeah, that was the question I immediately asked myself. Was I hear I've got three facets to my personality?
I don't like that question because
I know,
good is very, very.
Where's the nice bit?
Subjective.
Where's the bit I might want to hang out with? Where's the bit that in another person I'd want to hang out with?
That's the difficulty of life. You can't choose the id or the superego or the ego and live only by itself, only on the id, only on the superego, only on the ego. You need to kind of balance yourself between them, and that's the real difficulty of life. To be able, because look, if you only have superego, you're a slave. You're a slave. You don't have any self-awareness. You don't have any desire. You don't have anything. You just bend over to the society, do whatever the fuck the society tells you to do.
It's very cogent. I agree with you. So what we're saying is, when I said where's the good bit, what I did was first of all take the building blocks I was given. I was given 3 building blocks.
Yeah.
It sounded like the superego was, because I got a Freudian view, was all about repression. And I thought, okay, well that doesn't sound like the good guy.
Yeah.
Then I got the ego, which has just got so many connotations. If you're egotistical, you're bad.
Yeah.
Ego,
No, but look.
And it seemed like the ego was a
I don't
slightly
quite agree on
delusional,
what
blah
you
blah
did.
blah thing. So I was only left with the id. So I'm
Yeah.
going, well, if one's repressive and the other is just sort of kind of narcissistic and delusional, the only place left there might be anything good is the id. It seems the id at least has got the feelings, the emotions, and actually the stuff I really care about. But are you telling me that all my feelings and emotions are just negative?
Not all of them.
Okay, cool. So then, because your definition of the id was if I follow my id, I'd want to kill, steal. Hopefully I'd want to do some nice stuff as well. The id's got
I
good
understand
qualities.
now why you think that way. I understand now what you thought about what I said.
Yeah.
But look,
I like your
The
synthesis
problem-
though, your resolution is to
Yeah,
go,
yeah.
it's not just about the 3 building blocks,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
about the harmony between
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
and that
yeah.
may transcend
but
the
first of
3.
all, I need to address about what you said about the ego.
Yeah.
I don't think Freud shows ego as a third option to id and superego, because the ego is basically yourself. It's the being that chooses between superego and the id.
And it's created by the tension between the 2.
More or less,
Yeah.
more or less. It's kind of like that. Id is your, not id, ego is your being, is the judge, it's the choice that you have.
Judge is superego. Choose
Not exactly. The judge, as you see in society, yes, that's the superego. But the judge who chooses between society and between yourself,
Okay. The chooser,
that's the
chooser.
ego, the chooser. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. That's a better description. You're right. So I wouldn't call ego as a third option. Ego is the one who makes the option between superego and id, which basically,
That's
like
a
the
very dynamic process, and that mechanism of the ego, it's not just a construct of 2 other things. It's a very dynamic player in that trinity, isn't it?
yes.
There you go.
It's I won't talk a lot about ego because it's very complicated. It will have to divert a lot of time and a lot of attention just to talk
So
about
are you a
ego.
psychologist or a psychiatrist by any chance? I
Oh,
just
no,
haven't.
no.
Okay,
No,
okay, fine. Just check.
No, I'm not that clever. But look, what I was saying about the id.
Yeah.
It's not that id wants to do bad to do bad. It's just that id follows its feelings completely. And feelings, they don't really care too much if it's evil, if it's good, if the other person will hurt, if the other person will feel good. Some people feel well when they're giving pleasure to other people. Some people feel well when they're
Am I naive?
giving
I
pain
feel
to
good
other
when
people.
I feel like I'm empathically connecting with another person. Yeah? I feel good.
That's the person
I get
you
the
are.
feeling they feel good. I get the conclusion that's within the realms of possible human nature,
Yeah.
because I'm an example of it.
Okay.
I may be deluding myself.
That's
but I
it,
seem
yeah.
to see that in enough other people. I hear it reflected in enough narratives. And therefore I take that to be a property of the id, which is also fairly positive. And seeing this as far as I'm concerned, if you don't feel it, it's not really real or important in a very practical sense. All else is theory and containment. Essentially what we're dealing with is bundles of emotion, yeah?
Yes,
To be
more or
alive
less.
is to have emotion, feel pain, pleasure, aspiration, hope, and a spectrum of
Yeah.
things, complex and subtle. So all of that emotion seems to be basically packaged in the id. If the id was just purely dark and repressed by the superego, I kind of might draw the conclusion that it's just all blow our brains out. Or at least we shouldn't reproduce because it's such a dark situation.
Now you're the one having a negative idea
No,
on
because
humanity.
this could be hell. When I come here, this could be hell on earth. We could be in a horribly dark situation. Maybe
I don't think it's that bad.
I was speaking with some vegans 2 weeks ago, right? And they had a vegan sign.
I got popular on a big argument I had with some vegans. I got very popular on the channel.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was pretty funny. We got into a big stalemate because I couldn't prove them like I couldn't give them enough reasons to start eating meat, and they couldn't give me enough reasons to stop eating meat. Because I was basing myself on functionality, as I usually am.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
And they were basing themselves on what feels nice. They were basing themselves, oh, you know, don't kill the animals because it's not nice killing the animals. No.
You don't have to say this quite that much. It's a nice, they're being empathic.
Yeah, but at the same time, they are very self-loathing. I came into depth into the vegan mind when I was talking to them. They are some of them are very self-loathing people.
Let me demonstrate to you how. Okay, you go first.
Sorry. Let me just give you this example. I told them like this: look, guys, if I have a choice to kill every single animal on Earth, or to give a future for humanity, to make humanity keep existing, and I would, without any question, choose the existence of humanity. Because I am human, because I value humans above any kind of animal. Mainly because humans have the ability to perceive the world. They have that choice. They have the ability to see beauty, to see the world in their perspective. Now, animals, they do have a rudimentary perception of the world, but it's nothing compared to what the humans have. But most importantly of all, I am human, and thus I will protect other humans more than I would protect animals. And I love animals. I don't hate animals at all. I feel very bad when I see animals being killed for no reason. I feel very bad about it. But look, I lived in a village when I was a kid, and we have a different relationship with the animals. Like, we see them as useful companions. We eat them, but we also give them a good life. Like, they live well, we can take care of them, blah blah blah.
I get where you're coming from. Can I now give you my vegan story, a little backtrack into how dark I was talking before, and back to the core extension? Okay. So the vegans are there, they've got a sign, and I said to them, look, here might be a problem with veganism, because in principle I'm on side, but if we didn't eat meat, all the sheep and all the cows would become extinct or live in zoos. Yeah?
I gave them that point too.
Right. So I shut them to that. To my surprise, they doubled down on me and went, yeah, we're okay with that. Right?
Yes, I know, right? They're okay with it.
Okay, so then I doubled down on them. I went, okay, in that end, I said, why? Because they won't be suffering. So I went, therefore, logically, maybe human beings shouldn't reproduce because we're suffering.
Then we should just kill ourselves,
but they doubled down on me and went, yeah, we believe that too. And it turned out, they turned up here with a sign saying that actually they think human beings shouldn't reproduce because we inflict suffering. Now, I'm owning up here and going, I'm not 100% sure they're wrong, okay? I hope not.
I can prove you that it's not a reasonable thing to say.
Well, if the human condition is just suffering, essentially suffering, then to choose to bring new entities into existence knowing that they will suffer and on the balance of life they'll regret the experience may not be a cool thing to do. I don't want to wave the flag.
I get what you mean.
But I don't want to eliminate it from the spectrum of possibility either.
You show up a very fair point. But look, the thing is, if you are completely against suffering, if you want to exterminate, eliminate, eradicate suffering, you are against all feelings.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's just I think their point is it is possible. In the Buddhist tradition, they go life is suffering. The Christian thing, he ends up on a cross being tortured to death. The theme of suffering is
self-sacrifice.
It could just be on balance the way to
That's why
life
the Christians, they pray to a torture device, to a cross, to a torture device.
Which I think.
Why do they do it? Because it's basically the idea of self-sacrifice for something else. That's what the cross stands for. That's why I honestly prefer Christianity to Islam. But I don't believe in either of them. But Christianity stands for that self-sacrifice, and that's at the same time, it can be put against the Christians, and it's being done right now because the Christians are being they have a very big moral relativism going on. They completely lost themselves. They don't have any strict rules right now. All they have is the Pope who's just giving in to the politically correct.
I don't think you can argue the Catholics are into relativism. The Catholics are fairly hard line and there's clear right, there's clear wrong.
There is the strict Catholics, and I don't agree with the strict Catholics. But if religion is to have any effect at all, any influence at all, any positive influence, then you need to have a set of rules that you follow. Without a set of rules to follow, there is nothing. You're just going with the flow.
You're seeing it as a superego. My problem with superego is it's coming in as a carrot, and I'm going I prefer as a whip, and I prefer the carrot. You can motivate people with both. The superego goes just repress, it's bad. What I like about Christianity is it seems to wave a positive carrot in there that goes, it's got some good stuff. And it can be quite hippie and quite Woodstock and all of that, which I like. It may be delusional. But I like that in people, in myself and in other people, and I wouldn't want to throw it out the window. I think people enjoy getting on. And it's nice to be empathic and connected with people. People like getting on. When you get into a harmonious situation with another person, at whatever level, just on a friendship level, or playing in a band together, or music, or sex, or whatever the fuck it is.
True.
Yeah, that is a positive win-win thing. That's as good as it gets.
The thing is, I don't like the mentality of positive, good, negative, bad. I don't think that's how the world works at all, because if we are only into the positive part, we lose understanding. We lose sense of the positive. If you don't have any pain, you won't have any pleasure. And I did a trick with myself a while ago, the dopamine fast. One day of the month, I did it just once, just to learn a lesson for myself. And I didn't learn anything new, but I just confirmed what I was already thinking. One day, you don't do anything. You just meditate, you might drink water. You don't do anything that gives you pleasure. You don't watch movies, you don't watch TV, you don't read, you don't eat, you don't have sex.
You did that?
Huh?
You did.
I did that one day.
Congratulations. I'm impressed.
Almost nothing. It wasn't pure. I did speak to some people for a little bit. You mustn't speak to anybody. You must be only you, yourself, and I.
Okay.
That one day. Just leave yourself for zero dopamine. And the next day, the smallest of pleasures seem much greater than they were before.
You cleansed your palate. You did.
Exactly.
This is the merit.
It's like cleansing yourself.
Yeah.
And the small pleasures are pleasurable again. You don't need to always put the stake higher and higher.
Yeah.
And that is why humans need some pain in their life, why they need some suffering, why they need sometimes to shackle themselves to something. They can't be completely free. Because they need that balance. They need to cleanse themselves from all goody things to be able to appreciate the small things again.
I think it's a good juxtaposition to have known suffering. I think we need suffering for a slightly different reason. What you did was cleanse your palate. It wasn't painful per se.
Yeah.
You just simply didn't overexcite. You let it calm down.
It is a bit painful though. It hurts more than it sounds like it will hurt.
No, you're right.
Not doing anything.
No, you're right, because you get change.
It's soul crushing,
because you're used to that level of agitation.
Exactly.
And to change a pattern,
you're used to
it's
something going
and it
on.
makes you agitate. Yeah, I get that.
Silence hurts. Loneliness hurts.
Yeah.
Not like getting beaten up hurts, obviously. Not the same kind of hurt. Not in that, not nearly as much, but you know what I mean.
No, you're right. You're saying that we need suffering. Yeah, suffering has its use. Their argument, I think, would have been that the weight of suffering is so inevitable and overwhelming compared to the weight of pleasures, happiness, etc. Maybe it's not worth it. They may be right, but I don't want to simply go there. There is another thing with suffering, though. You need suffering in order to empathize with other people. When I see someone stub their toe, I'll go, right? But that I have to have understood what it's like to stub my toe, roughly. It's very interesting, I think, that when people watch films, often the films where they see someone getting hurt, that they remember as being like, wow, that was nasty. It's like in Misery. You seen Misery? The film, a guy gets his ankle smashed. Or there's another film where a guy gets paper cuts. Or there's another film where somebody goes to the dentist and has a dentist drill, yeah? And viewers will empathise with that, and it will really make them wince in a way that seeing somebody shot or blown up won't. Because getting shot or blown up is just beyond their realm of empathy.
They don't. It transcends their feelings.
Yeah, their imaginations just haven't covered that one yet. But paper cuts and the dentist,
they know
and
it. They know the
things,
pain.
Yeah,
so
that's something, and they feel it. So you need, in order to fill the empathy gap and see the other person clearly, you need to have dug into their condition.
Yes.
It has that use. Yeah?
Yes, but honestly, I will never agree with what the vegans say.
I hope not.
Because of a few simple reasons. The main reason for that is that I don't oppose feelings. Without any feelings, we are machines. We are worse than
No, I
machines.
agree.
Because
Feelings is what it's all about.
feelings are part of our mental abilities, part of our ideology, because the world that we perceive is with senses, and senses are feelings. We feel things. That's how we perceive the world,
I think
with the
sensations
feelings.
and emotions are not the same thing. I think
They are very intermingled
I think
together.
they're connected, but I've got a feeling. My emotion of hope, for example, my emotion of nostalgia, humour, guilt. I don't see those as being sensations. Sensation to me is pain, pleasure,
Yes,
cold,
because they don't come in the moment. They are either a priori or a posteriori. For example, guilt, it's after you do something, you feel guilt. Or when you are anxious for something, it's before. It's not at the moment. It's not the feeling that you get at the exact moment.
I'm impressed.
You are expecting it, or either you already had it.
I've drawn a similar conclusion. So I've concluded. You don't want to cut now. We're solving the meaning of life.
It's just
now. So I didn't
thanks,
know
bro.
you were filming. No. This is the interesting bit.
Yeah.
Hold it. Okay, yeah. Because I think what happens is, I want to get a light onto this bit because I'm really impressed that you've drawn the same conclusion that I've had.
Well, if you think enough about things, you discover some conclusions that might be right.
We're having we're on an
We're having a very good, very good
When
discussion.
you were talking about math and whether...
We did a bit of math.
Yeah, we changed the subject a bit to vegans.
Yeah,
vegan.
and we've done Freud,
Freud, Jung, we've done
Jung.
everything.
We've done, okay. So now we're on, I'm pitching, we both kind of agree that emotion is core and important to the human condition, yeah? Then you've mentioned that everything he says is a sensation. I'm pointing out that I think a lot of my emotions, the ones I'm attached to and that are interesting, like hope, guilt, beauty, humour, nostalgia, are not just sensations, they're more complex. Yeah? Although they're connected to sensations, they are not. He's bounced straight back in with something that I'm very impressed by because I'd already drawn a similar conclusion and I'm naturally impressed with myself, which is he went,
it's a logic
because
conclusion.
The complex emotions, so I know it's logical, to a lot of people probably not, which is that the more complex emotions are ones which extend through time. In other words, they're projections into the future or they're references to the past. I buy that. So now, I think this is why this to me comes to the Garden of Eden metaphor of the apple. I think with animals, they get sensation, hot, cold, respond, yeah?
Yeah.
Human beings, something happened in our evolution where we could suddenly build a model of the world in our head.
Much more developed. They have perception of the senses, of the feelings.
Yeah,
They have
we
better
see
perception.
I think what happened was we realized we were objects and it was terrifying, and in Freudian psychology that is the reality principle versus the pleasure principle. The pleasure principle is you think you're an omnipotent God at the center of the universe. The reality principle is you realize you're an object with boundaries. In that shock moment, you gain a model of the world in your head where you are an object in the middle of the world and you have a model of an objective universe. That then projects through time. It's the first time when you can project through time. And when you do it, you imagine things and you feel all the more complex emotions. They're a function of projecting through time, yeah? Anxiety is about the future, regret is about the past. So our ability to conceptualize ourselves through time in the past and the future is what I think raises above the animals. I think animals probably just do the past. I think when I see my cat coming, I think it sniffs its way into the unknown, learns a new series of memories, goes, okay, this is safe ground, and then it relaxes into it. But I don't think it imagines the future and goes, I imagine when my mother died how I'm going to feel. I don't think a cat ever does that. Yeah, I don't think it knows it'll die. But I think it just basically rehashes its experience of the past in memories which are safe and can repeat them with safety, and everything else is just on a fight or flight response and learns that. Makes sense?
Look,
so we're going
it does, but still, I would say that the animals have many of those feelings, except they are much more rudimentary.
Yeah.
And the example I'm going to give you is actually pretty funny because it has a lot to do with my name. They sometimes call me Pavlov by accident.
Well, yeah, I found
my
it
name
funny
is Pavlov.
that your name was Pavlov.
But Pavlov is a Russian scientist who did an experiment on dogs. With dogs. He would feed the dogs after he would ring a bell.
Yeah.
And he would put some, which was a bit ruthless.
They salivate.
He put some tubes in their mouths to measure how much saliva they would make before the food. And the first times he rang the bell, nothing happened. They just started having saliva when the food came.
Yeah, I know Pavlov.
What happened
you
then?
know Pavlov.
What happened
I
then
think I've heard of this.
I think
was
Pavlovian, yeah.
was the best example of anticipation and preparation for the future that we can see in animals. When the dog, eventually, when he would ring the bell, the dog would start secreting saliva because he knew that he would get fed after the little bell.
Well, you assume that. It could just be a backward thing where he goes, in the past it was the case, therefore I'll do it now. I don't think he's...
But that's anticipation.
You could... Yeah, you're right. It's just I don't think the dog is ever calculating different hypothetical futures.
It's more rudimentary, as I said.
Yeah, it's more rudimentary. I think what makes
humans.
us unique is like in programming, we have if-then. When you do programming in code, it's actually you go, if this, you imagine if the user presses that button, I'll plan for that. If they do this, I'll plan for that. And I think that's our unique ability is to multitask into the future and not actually have to go out and do everything. You can imagine it and go, I imagine if I don't do that, X will happen. I imagine if I don't that. Now, our imagination may be accurate or inaccurate, but we use that as a fundamental tool, which gives us so much power. And tortures us because we look down that future line and we go, damn, I'm going to die, I'm going to get old, and a whole load of horrible stuff that animals aren't tortured by and we are. Anyway,
the worst part is the anticipation.
Book of Genesis is about. That's what the fall from grace is. It's that horror of, oh, I'm naked and I learn shame, I'm going to die and work and blah, blah.
It actually, it hurts to admit it, but it actually happened to me once in the Winter Wonderland. A few days ago. When I was a kid, I had a bit of a traumatic experience in an attraction park because I ate some out-of-date juice and then I puked over my sister. It was pretty bad. But I wanted to go here to just check out if everything's gonna be fine. And I went to the worst ones, to the toughest ones here, which are not that tough actually. They're not that bad.
No, they are.
But I did go to the absolute worst ones. And there was one which is called the Hangover, on which they put you up and they quickly put you down. And I was scared of that. I was scared that I would on the ride.
I assume you didn't bring your sister this time.
No. Everything was good. The thing is, I was very disappointed because I didn't feel anything at all. I didn't feel even a little bit of nausea or anything. The worst part was anticipation. It was the fear, what will happen now. When at the moment when we were going down, which was just 1 or 2 seconds, there was no real fear. There was only maybe it was because of the adrenaline rush, but I think that proves once again that the worst part of fear is the anticipation. What comes before. It's like I researched about it a little bit. Like the KGB agents and the Gestapo agents of Germany, they sometimes would peel off the nails on the people that they interrogated, and they had a saying going on between them that if you peel the first nail, like for example, if you see a person with all of his nails peeled, that man didn't say anything, because if the man doesn't spill it out after the first nail, he will not say anything. Because that's the power of anticipation and of fear. It's not the actual pain, it's knowing the pain and knowing that it will come again and again and again and again. And when they feel the first nail being peeled, people do the mental mathematics. Okay, that's 1% in 10 of the pain that I'm going to feel. That's it, man, I'm done now, I'm done. I know the pain, I'm not going to feel this anymore. Now the person that is not going to spill it out, it doesn't matter if it's 10%, if it's 50%, if it's 100%. He knows the pain and he's prepared to take that pain. So he will not say anything. And I think that's a very, very good insight into humans and their fear over the anticipation. And I will never agree with what the vegans are saying, because animals don't see the world the same way we do. Animals don't see the world the same way.
With veganism, which is we dug deep into their thinking,
and they gave
we
almost the same,
they didn't believe
almost the same things, almost the same arguments to both of us.
Because they thought the world was so suffering that we shouldn't be inflicted on other humans, and I can't discount that, as I said to him. Maybe that's the case, but I hope not. And neither of us can. But they were really extreme.
They were.
I had no idea.
They're very self-loathing sometimes. They said that they
this guy's hard. Seriously, no. He went on a fast for 1 day, only drank water just to see what it was like.
I do some experiments sometimes. I don't have people to experiment on, so I experiment on myself.
How was the experience?
That's the humane.
The fasting experience.
After you spend a day without feeling any big pleasure, like watching TV, talking to friends, having sex, eating, all that stuff that gives you pleasure, the smallest pleasures are multiplied. I mean, they're not multiplied, but you feel them more.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
You feel them more after not feeling anything. The same thing goes when you feel great pain or great loss. You will feel the small things as the most precious things ever. That's why people who never lost anything can never feel what it means to lose things. They will completely lose eventually, if people only feel pleasure, they will lose all kinds of feelings. They will lose their ability to empathize with people. Because they, all those goody two shoes, nice people who say on the TV, those superstars, those actors, those celebrities who say refugees welcome, we should all live in peace, give Marxism a chance. They don't know what pain actually feels. They don't know what the consequences. They don't feel what might happen. It's a bit of a generalization, but still, that's why I usually don't really give too, I don't listen too seriously to what people say on the TV, especially if they're celebrities, because those
are a rule of thumb. That's probably a good idea.
It's a good, that's a good idea.
And I see your point though. I think when you take things for granted, right?
Eventually you start, and it's not really your fault. It's just how humans work. They get used to things. So if you live a very good life, you will get used to it.
Which is why Ramadan's a good idea. Ramadan, great idea. You see the people doing. No, come on. It's totally conducive with your point.
It is completely.
More or
In
less.
Christianity, we've got Lent. In practice now, everybody might give up, and then we eat Easter eggs crazy. But basically, it's not. These guys, they do it properly. I mean, and I think it's a good thing.
A whole month, every single day.
Again, I don't oppose religion, but
but that particular practice, whether you're
religion
religious or not,
I can't believe in it.
all I was asking was, do you not see some merit in that practice?
I think it's a placebo, but it's a placebo that, if used correctly, can work for benefit.
Given that we know that, it's just I'm looking at religion and going, whether it's a placebo or not, what good practices have they got? And amongst Islam's good practices, one of which is not taking drugs. Which I think, although I have taken drugs and probably will continue to drink, I know. Nonetheless, I can agree that if I want to achieve my personal vitra, drugs ain't the way to go. So I think they're right on that. Equally, I think you're...
Right. I mean, the point about fasting is...
the point about fasting is it's a good idea. You understand, you value the food you eat more for the other 11 months of the year.
I've experienced.
You empathise with people who are starving. It grounds you out. It's a good thing.
But look, man, still...
What?
The dopamine fast that I did during that one day, it did work, but it worked a little bit.
Okay, well this works a little bit for 30 days. It's still a good thing.
And the thing is, you only did it for one day. Try doing it for 30 days
but I did
almost
completely pure dopamine fast. I had almost no dopamine during that whole day. Now, fasting is only about food.
No, it's about food, it's about having sex, or abstaining from sex.
Well, you don't have sex during the Ramadan?
Nope, not
really?
while you're fasting.
I never heard of
that.
that.
Not while you're fasting. You can only do it after you sunset, where you can eat. And,
Never heard of that.
Okay, fine.
Maybe it's different kinds of
No, but it is.
No, I think the guys just probably don't boast about that. I hear guys, I down the gym, a lot of guys, and they're dying because in summer, the sun doesn't go down till 9 o'clock, which means they can't eat or drink till 9, which is crazy. To not eat till 9 o'clock is one thing, to not drink water and be in a gym is like...
By the way, you still have the opportunity to drink water.
During the Ramadan, you can't drink water.
You can drink water.
How many days is that?
30 days.
What do you do? You don't drink water during 30 days? I don't believe.
No. They don't drink water until sundown, which means in summer, that's like 9:30 in the peak of summer. This last summer was really bad for them. They can't drink anything. And they're very vocal about that, and I totally respect the discipline. It's a good thing. None of them mentioned they weren't having sex, which I think is funny. So it's the first time I've heard that. But anyway,
they sometimes cheat. They sometimes cheat.
Well, you got to respect
them.
that.
I mean, I would say the majority of Muslims, who are committed to fasting,
those casuals,
properly.
they need to,
I wouldn't
give it all.
I wouldn't go
those
that.
casuals, they need to no restriction.
And you probably wouldn't be fasting if you
probably
were having
wouldn't.
sex,
Probably
people who observe it will go the extra mile to make sure they don't. They don't, like, some people won't even smell perfume or like incense because that's because it kind of, you know, something you inhale and.
Okay, but you talk to your friends, you spend time with your family, you watch TV,
you go to work,
you do many different things. It's still not a complete dopamine.
No, but it's
it's not supposed to be like dopamine.
But it's a step in the right direction. You know, it's an effort. It's a real effort.
I wouldn't say you need
I didn't
30
mean
days
exciting
for
side.
that.
I meant just exciting, stimulating in any sense.
Yeah.
I don't
You're
really
trying to clean your palate. That's what he was trying to do.
sense.
It's clean your palate.
I
so
honestly
you can,
don't agree too much about it being 30 days. One day per month.
No, it's 30
Okay,
days.
fine.
They do good things because they do the pilgrimage to Mecca, which to me makes sense. It's a collective endeavour doing a
People
thing.
generous during that time when charities given out.
Credit-free banking,
Yeah.
which after the crash of 1930s and 2008 might be a good idea. Credit-free banking could be a really interesting
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah,
not
but
just
nobody will do it.
horizontal, though.
There are
That's
people's
like,
interests in staying. Rich people's interests.
Yeah, I know, and maybe we can deal with them best by maybe they manipulated credit and they got to exploit that. If you've got a banking system with no credit built into it, that might be a brilliant solution to corrupt banking. Maybe. And you've got the prayer thing is, to me, prayer is the same thing. Prayer is going
meditation.
realistically.
And it's 5 times a day, so
Yeah.
you can imagine how that kind of wires your brain to, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
consistently
such a
do
loss
this
of time.
meditation.
You lose so much time
I
that
don't
you
know.
could have used for something else.
I mean,
Like what?
the-
Like what? If you
What,
if,
what,
like,
ha-
well,
what greater,
Doing stuff you like.
But
or like,
assuming they're recalibrating
working.
their compass when you're praying, assuming that what you're doing is whatever drama you've been involved with during the day, for that moment you're going, I must remind myself that I'm not a very powerful entity in a transient position and I'm down on my knees and this is the reality of where I am in the cosmic picture. It's just putting myself back into perspective for about 10 minutes and then I'll get up and go
look.
again.
And
It's quite a good
exactly,
idea.
it's just, like, it
I
takes
have
5
two main
minutes for
problems with it,
meditation.
you know, with Christianity and with Islam. In this case with Islam, because we're talking about Islam. Two main problems. The first problem is there is no real certainty that what they teach you is actual truth, and there is no actual way to prove it 100%.
But that's the
That's
problem.
the actual truth.
you said
That's
this-
the problem of every
Can
religion.
I cut you dead on that? We already did this one. We already said you can't prove the trees there. So if proof is going to be your stumbling block for doing anything, we're dead in the water, yeah? We've got to accept that we're balancing probabilities always.
It's not always like that. It's
Yeah,
not
no, I
always
think
like
the
that. If you-
probabilities on your view, no offence, when taken literally, is very low. But nonetheless, I can't know that you might be right. I don't know you're wrong. I just think the probabilities are heavily against
Exactly.
it. So when you,
It's all about probabilities.
it's all about probabilities, yeah. So what?
But the second reason is, I just honestly, I really hate the idea of living like a slave to some evil genius, because that's the no, but that's the definition. That's the philosophical
One-
definition of the ideology.
scripture.
That's the philosophical definition. No, but look, guys, I'm not joking. I'm not just making this up. The philosophical definition of the ideology of believing that all your will and everything you do is part of some grand scheme or manipulation by a superior being or a transcendent being to you, it's called evil genius.
No,
Because
that's a hell of a joke.
why is it called evil genius?
is.
Because he's not.
brought
Because
up
you don't
evil
have
genius.
any free will. You don't have any free will at all. If everything you do is for and from God, if God is the center of all you do and He's the the purpose of everything you do.
You're misrepresenting religion. In Christianity and I'm guessing Islam, I think, and in Judaism, the deal seems to be that God knows that you have got free will and how you use it will determine the state of your soul and your salvation.
Yeah, but it's
etc.
a false choice, because if you use it not like God wants you to use it, you get punished forever.
Well, hang on, that still
What
doesn't
kind
mean
of
you don't
choice
know,
is
but
that?
then you do have a choice. Okay,
Well,
when
that
you
makes-
phrased it originally, it was
Yeah, but that
deterministic.
simplifies
Yeah,
the
so you're
large
changing
amount
your-
of choices to only two
I'm not saying
choices,
it's not a
and that's
loaded
another
choice.
fallacy.
I'm not saying it's not a
That's the
loaded
fallacy
choice, but
of the two choices, the simplifying fallacy. When there's many choices that you can take, that you can exit out of the situation in many different ways,
said
and somebody
deterministic.
just shows you two.
Didn't you say deterministic?
Sorry?
I thought you said deterministic. I thought you said you don't have free will. In a deterministic universe, you have no free will, yeah?
And actually
The religious world isn't describing a deterministic world, it's describing
Okay.
one where you do have free will. Now, it may be you don't like the choices you're looking at, but you do have free will according to that.
But if you are only
And
offering
actually, a materialist point of view would argue that that you don't have free will. And
Yeah,
that,
would argue determinism. And determinism may be the case. It could be we haven't got any, and there's quite a lot of evidence that suggests we don't. But maybe we do, and I hope we do.
But a religious person's response
Like
would be,
that idea. Don't like the idea at
your
all.
choice.
No, I don't like it. Just
I don't
because I
want-
don't like the idea doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like
It
the
doesn't.
idea of no
It doesn't.
afterlife, but I've
It
had to
doesn't.
dump that one.
But that's my choice to believe it. You know, I will to believe something, or I will not to believe something. I might will to believe something different than what other people are believing in.
Yeah, but hopefully when you're choosing, you're making your choice based on what seems the most true, not what seems the most comfortable. Otherwise, I'd still believe in Father Christmas, because I'm far more comfortable believing in Father Christmas.
Yeah, but it doesn't work.
I know, that's
doesn't
why I
function
gave
at all.
up, but I prefer to believe in Father Christmas. I prefer to believe in the afterlife, and I prefer to believe in the designer God. So I prefer all of those things, but I've had to let them go. Maybe I was wrong, but...
Then you prefer to be a religious person.
Well, I prefer to believe that truth trumps all other virtues.
Yeah, you
and
believe.
that
You
my
prefer to
desire-
believe that you have all the answers and all the truths in your faith, in the faith in the God that you believe in.
No,
Because-
I believe that.
Yes,
no,
that's
I
religion.
believe that whether in light or in darkness, one should pursue truth as best you can.
Yeah, but God
And
is
some-
truth. If you believe in a religion, then God is your absolute,
Yeah.
irrefutable, only truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hence,
She's
follow
agreeing.
truth. Someone said. I've
Yeah,
heard
but
somebody
the
say.
thing is,
if
you are
believe in-
denying yourself the uncertainty. You're denying yourself the pain of uncertainty.
What are you talking
to
about? I
live-
told you I think there may be no God, and maybe we should all kill ourselves. So
No,
I'm covering
not,
the
I'm not talking
spectrum.
about you. I'm saying if you choose to be a religious person,
Yeah.
you deny the uncertainty of the possibility that God might not exist.
But I
Yeah.
haven't.
Well-
As I said to you,
No,
I
if
haven't.
you.
Well,
I'm not
and
saying
and
you.
as a
But I think I am.
religious person, would
I'm giving you an
agree.
But
example.
if I embody an example of somebody who is religious and simultaneously embraces the idea God may not exist, then I've disproved your point.
Well, then he's not a religious person.
Well, I think I am, because I'm living as though there may be a God, and there may be.
Okay, there
And
might be.
simultaneously,
But you're not
I'm
a
open
religious
to the
person.
idea that this is just a materialistic, deterministic hell on earth.
No, I think she'll agree with me, and every religious person will agree with me that if you consider yourself a religious person, you need to believe that that is reality, that is the truth. The God that you believe in is absolute. That's the absolute truth.
I mean,
you agree
actually,
with that?
I think you're using religious in a very strict sense of the term. I find that you're using it in sort of like a broader sense. I mean, Einstein considered himself a religious person, and I think he was an atheist or agnostic or something. So I think it's just a
Yeah,
different,
the word can have
yeah.
different.
I
I'm
think it's
hoping
just
for
a
the best,
different
but I'm
connotation of the
open
word.
to the word.
I mean, religious in a strict kind of scriptural sense. Like, no, you're obviously not that kind of religious because you don't adhere to a faith or text. But I think that I think it's just a matter of
Yeah, the words are causing
Yeah.
a problem. Maybe it's better. I believe a world, if you remove any spiritual dimension from the world, what you're left with is one hell of a horrible mess. Let's put it that way. Yeah? I think you need
there's a
that
diff-
element in the
yeah.
picture somewhere.
And there's a difference between spirituality and religion, I think.
Yeah.
Also. I think what you're talking about has
Yeah,
more
because
to do with
religion follows
spirituality.
strict rules and spirituality doesn't.
Or a looser definition of the word religious would be just having some kind of like spiritual practice and like following that.
Yeah.
Something that you've come up with.
I
and
disagree
following.
about that. I think the act of being a religious person means that you are strict with yourself in your belief, that your belief is
There
true.
are a lot of examples
There's
of
dogma in the religion. You need to have dogma.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do.
Don't. No, then
Yes,
you're
you do.
really not accurately and scientifically looking.
There is no religion without dogma,
You're looking-
without belief, without faith.
You're looking at a lot of people, and a lot of people will tick the box, but it doesn't mean everyone's like that, or that it's an inherent property of religion.
There are casuals.
Some religions are really not very dogmatic at all.
Which
and
ones?
even if they are, they don't have to be. It's not inherent, yeah? I'm still waving the flag for Christianity, and I've thrown out all the dogma. I'll still wave the flag for Islam. So
Okay, fair
I've
enough.
thrown out
Not
the
all the
dogma,
religions
yeah?
are like that, but Christianity
them
and
are.
Islam and Judaism, all monotheistic religions
Have a
have one God,
dogmatic
and they
way.
have very strict rules that you need to follow. I always give this example.
Christianity's only
to-
got two, and they're really easy.
Huh?
Christianity's only got two, and they're very easy and not very dogmatic.
mean two?
It's only got two rules.
Two rules.
Yeah.
What about the Ten Commandments?
No, that's not Christianity.
Yeah, it is.
No, that's the Old
Yes,
Testament.
it is. Christians adopted the Ten Commandments as their own rules.
I, as a Christian, I'll wear my Christian hat for a minute, take the Gospels and the Sermon on the Mount to be the only time Jesus gave any rules. And he went, I supersede whatever
What
came
happened to
before
love
with
thy
two rules."
neighbor?
Yeah, that.
What happened to you shall believe in me as your only God and in no other creation?
Sermon
What
on the
happened to
Mount's
all
only
that?
got two
What
rules.
happened? Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou
No,
shalt
that's
not
Old
rape.
Testament. Okay, the Sermon
That's
on the Mount.
Christianity, man.
Look, I'm now accurate on this point. You can get out the Bible, and I don't want to be someone who comes to Speaker's Corner and pulls out a Bible because they're normally a pain in the ass. But, okay, let's not.
They gave it today.
It's
Look,
too
guys, it's
predictable and
golden.
it's too-
It's
lovely.
gold. They gave it for free.
Leather bound.
Fucking hell, they gave me a Qur'an the other day.
Nice.
The Sermon on the Mount only gives two rules, one of which is the golden rule, which is common to a lot of religions, which is treat other people the way you'd like to be treated yourself.
Okay.
Okay? The other rule is very amorphous and strange and a bit weird, which is love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul, which really is certainly not dogmatic. It's almost just a sense of euphoric, divine, transcendent something. Be aware that this is all something, yeah?
Okay, fine.
So that's it for Christianity. So that's not very dogmatic.
I very disagree with you about saying that the Ten Commandments are not.
Oh no, the
what
Ten Commandments are very dogmatic, which is one
Well,
of the
they are
reasons I'm
part
not a
of
big fan of the Old
Christianity.
Testament.
You're saying the Ten Commandments are not part of Christianity.
No, it's not inevitable that as a Christian you have to carry that horrible baggage with you. Because
It's
following
not horrible.
No, it is.
The commandments are reasonable.
No, they're not.
Most
because
of them.
actually, yeah, exactly, most. Some of them aren't. And if you read further, after the Ten Commandments, then there's about another 120 or something small print explanations. And then you start getting into things like thou shalt
ramifications.
not suffer a witch to live, and you should stone your neighbour's children to death if they play on the Sabbath. And the whole thing goes tits up.
Okay,
yeah?
but I'm not only talking about the Ten Commandments now, only about the strict Ten Commandments, which is a very simple way of showing a way to live to people. Which is
Thou
why I
shalt
think
not make graven images.
that's the dogma. That's the
There's
Christian
quite a
dogma.
few of them are a bit naff.
Now there is Muslim dogma, there's Christian dogma, there's
That's
Jewish
Judaic, that's
dogma.
Judaic dogma. It's not
Yeah,
Christian
But
dogma.
Muslims and Christians have based their religion on the Abrahamic
But will
religion,
you allow
of
us?
Judaism.
Will you allow
Judaism
us,
was one of the first
Will you
religions.
please allow us the right to have a religion where we don't have to accept Judaism? I know there's a historical.
But it's the base of all the
I know it's
monotheists.
a historical reason, but we're allowed to
it's
go.
the
No, they
base
got
of
it
them.
wrong. We're upgrading. We've
They are very
upgraded.
similar.
to do that, but what is that?
I feel like most Christians would disagree with you, but I don't know a lot
They might,
about
yeah, they might do,
Christianity,
but there's enough Christians who will go, look, we don't need that baggage. It's like going, it's like going, we've upgraded from DOS to Windows, okay? I know that Windows was built on DOS, but DOS was a bit ropey and Windows is a better platform, yeah? Windows is what DOS was always trying to be, yeah?
But if you remove all the subjectivity and you look at the history,
know, I'm not denying the history, you're correct. I'm denying the premise that all history therefore has to dictate
He's not
all
saying
theology.
that they didn't do it. He's saying they shouldn't do it.
right?
Yeah, I'm saying I think we can make a
No, I
reasonable
disagree.
free
That's a
choice.
subjective. That's a subjective choice.
That's the
Everything
basis
is-
of
every
Christianity.
choice
The
is
basis of
subjective.
Christianity
Every
and of
choice is
Islam
subjective. The question is,
comes
is
from
it a good
the
choice?
Abrahamic religion.
And what defines a good choice?
And the Abrahamic
your
religion
belief in
comes,
moral
you know,
code,
it's
which
based,
ironically
it's not
comes
completely
via
based, but it's based on the
sacred
first
Christianity,
religious
Islam,
text
etc.
ever, which is a Sumerian text called Enwa Elish. In translation, it means when on high. It's a long story about, you know, the creation of the world, about their gods, the pagan gods, about the hero called Gilgamesh and his story. And if, you know, when you read that stuff, you see many similarities with the Bible, with the Old Testament, and with the Quran. There are many similarities, and that's why I'm saying that religion, that especially monotheistic religions, have more like evolved than they made up new religions. They you know, they kind of changed a few things here and there, and they maintained monotheism. Huh?
Did you say they're more involved?
That's
than other
postmodernist
religions?
bullshit.
The monotheistic.
Because it means
You got me good there. I don't think it's a necessarily good evolution.
Okay.
You see, there are mutations that people go through in their life, and those mutations sometimes help them and sometimes don't. Now, change, that mutation, that evolution might be beneficial or it might not be beneficial. I'm not saying Islam is better or worse. I'm just saying it changed some things. You know, to fit the necessities of the Arabs, the people who began worshipping Allah.
But that hierarchy is based
Like that, they changed something. That's what I mean.
All I'm
but
saying for the minute
I think
being
you can't
definitive and
argue that
accurate is I
it was
conclude
based
there
on
is a
Abrahamic
hierarchy
religion.
out there to be found.
That Islam was
It's like
based
an
on.
animal to hunt
I don't
down.
think you can argue.
It's not a
Even the fact that
fictitious
you guys
animal.
accept
Yes.
Jesus
It's
as
out
one of
there
your
to die.
prophets
And now
just
I'm going to go and look
solidifies
at
it.
it.
I mean,
It's
you
out
already
there.
follow a lot of
I think that's a good point. There, I mean, there are
laws
some
already.
similarities
You already
that
have
are
a kind of a moral
that are common
compass.
to all three
I do, but it could be
traditions,
wrong.
but there are some big differences.
And you might be right. Maybe there is no morality.
The basis
No,
is
there
the
is
same.
no morality. I believe there is a morality.
There's a cogent. No, there might
The way
not
that
be. It
Muslims
really might be what you
practice is
said.
I mean, at that point, you're just
Like
kind
if
of
you
going
read
like
the Ten Commandments
radically,
and
like,
you change
thinking of different thoughts,
to
you know,
Jesus
like,
or to
there might
Allah
not be any morality.
as the God
There
that
might
you're
not.
worshiping,
That's what I
I feel
think
like,
when you're trying
I
to
feel
work
like at that point you're
they
just
work
like,
exactly the same way with
way
Christianity,
out
with
of the
Islam,
box,
with
'cause, like,
Judaism.
there
Exactly the
is a
same way.
reality.
They
Yeah,
work
No,
in
it's
all
all
of them.
definitely. I
The
really think
Ten
that when you're
Commandments
trying to
work
hunt
in
down
exactly the same way.
morality, which I
They're
think is
strict
out
rules
there,
shared by all of them.
it's very useful
I mean,
to
only
have
the God that you worship
in your
changes.
palette of
Like
options.
Yahweh
The
or
option that there
Christ
is a
or
one.
Allah.
Knowing there
And I
may not be
disagree
one will
with
help
that,
you to
right?
find
I mean,
the thing you're
the
looking
basic
for. If
tenets
it's
point
out there.
toward the same
It's
God.
like pleasure
And
pain,
it's
the
the same
example you
God
were giving
that
earlier.
revealed the
Understanding
three
pleasure
different-
is
or the
enhanced
many
by
different
understanding
types
Okay,
of
but the name
imagery and
changes.
being
imagery.
able to scent out
It
what
does, but that
morality,
shouldn't
true
make a
morality
difference
may be
between
out
who
there,
that
will
God is in
probably be
essence,
juxtaposed
right?
with high. You're
What's
better
his
at
name?
doing
Okay,
it
but
if
the
you
way
really
you
do
worship
grasp
that
the
God
possibility
is
there is
different.
many.
It is
Because
different,
that's
but
also
that
true.
doesn't make
There may
the
not
God different. It just makes our
But you don't
practice.
believe that. You're
so that-
sure
For
there's
example, the
morality.
Christians,
I'm not
they
sure. I'm
have
not
pictures
aiming for
of
it.
that.
By being sure that there is
Muslims don't.
morality, do you mean
No.
like
Because
like only
the
a set of
Christians have this
objective
belief that
moralities, or do you
Jesus
mean like
was the Son of
moralities
God,
that we
there's
have
that
developed
idea
over
of
time?
the Holy Trinity, which it's a big
mean
contradiction.
morality?
Like what kind of morality
I can't explain it.
are you talking about?
I
Like,
think it's a good
religious
excuse to make some
objective
good
moralities, or are you
artworks.
referring to
Yeah.
moralities that we have
I really
Yeah,
like
I'm
the
talking
Renaissance
about objective
artworks.
morality.
You know, it
I'm
might be a
noticing
selfish
what's
reason, but
interesting
I
for me
honestly
is
prefer Christianity
I'm
in
becoming
that
like a
way,
stuck
because they have
record
really
here.
beautiful
Sorry,
artworks.
sorry.
I mean,
It
I'm not
is
talking
a
bad
very
about the
rich
Muslim
tradition.
artworks, but they only have
What's
written
interesting
things
to
and
me is that
they,
both
they have
Yeah,
beautiful
religion
buildings.
and evolution.
Yeah, they have very beautiful
psychology,
buildings, but they don't have any paintings, any depictions,
atheistic.
any
You know, you'd be
Humanistic
surprised to know that we actually do
Both
in a lot of
sell the same
folios
message
and
that
text,
we
in
come with a
textual form, we have
hardwired
a
moral
lot of
nature.
beautiful paintings.
okay, but in
Yeah.
texture.
No,
and that's
but,
very
but also
interesting.
in like
to
folios,
apparently
like
contradictory platforms
pictures
offer
and then
that.
text.
Yes.
There's a
And
lot
I
of
have
that.
some
We're
sympathy
very
therefore
interested
with
in
both
like
positions, and I believe
preserving
maybe
those
they've got
images
far
and
more in
stories
common
in
than they
a book
appreciate.
form. So there
Okay,
is,
fair
it's
enough.
just,
I guess
it's
it's a
not
The
matter
as
of
enemy
opinion.
is
publicized. It's just
postmodernism.
not
So
as
here I'm just going to be
publicized,
Jordan
as,
Peterson.
you know,
Right,
Christianity.
yeah,
We
okay.
don't-
The enemy is
no, we don't have
postmodernism, the
pictures
idea,
of-
I think.
of-
And even that may be
as
true,
kind of,
but then if it
you know, we
is,
don't
I think we should all
pictures
kill
of,
ourselves.
say,
So
Muhammad or
I think be
or God
consistent,
in our
yeah?
mosques,
You may be
but we
right,
have,
but then don't carry on living.
we have depictions of other.
I think it's useful for history. I mean, we can.
Well, I suppose you don't have to be morally
Yeah.
Right now we have all
It's
kinds of
less
stupidity
help,
but then
going
if
on
you can
about
murder
that.
everyone
How
who
did
gets
Jesus
it's not as
actually
open
look?
as-
Was Jesus white? Was Jesus black? Was Jesus
I mean,
brown?
it's also a
How was
cost-benefit
Jesus?
analysis.
And everybody says,
Like,
oh, Jesus was white. No, Jesus was black.
Even
No,
if I don't
Jesus
have a
was
set of
brown. No,
moralities,
Jesus was
I would
my
say,
race.
like,
My race only. My
murdering
race.
someone doesn't.
Yeah, it's
If it doesn't
So
necessarily mean why should
stupid.
I
The
do it?
races that existed
Assuming
back
it
then
would.
were
would,
different
then
from the
why
ones
not?
that exist
And you know you
now.
can get away with it.
People have been interbreeding.
In
They
that
have been
case, I mean,
changing
honestly,
throughout time. They have
I
been
wouldn't want to live in a world
kind
like
of
that.
evolving.
You may live
So
with
the
me
races
neither.
are not exactly the
therefore
same.
kill
It's
us.
different.
No, thank you.
Or at least
No,
we shouldn't reproduce
Jesus was black,
bacon
or Jesus was
I mean, in some sense,
blonde with blue
in
eyes.
some sense, Islam does have
more
the
entities into
advantage
that
there where
world,
we
right?
don't have
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, at
They
least you
cover
don't
the
have
gamut of
stupid arguments like
possibilities
those.
here from kind of altruistic utopia.
If
For one-
Muhammad was black or white or brown or gray or red.
situation.
Right.
It's all
And
on the
I
table.
think part of it is
I
because
think.
we have a very rich
But these
oral
guys, a lot of these
tradition
people,
that
they're
actually
sure
tells us
know
what
it's all
Muhammad looked like and
X
what,
or Y. They're
and
certain.
How did he
even
look
what
like?
the
What
other-
color was his hair?
I mean, yeah.
He was, I think he had
I'm more like,
brown hair,
I'm
and
Muslim,
his
right? I
face
do
was the
believe in
color
objective
of like the
morality.
harvest
Yeah,
moon.
but
So
at
he had
the
a
same
very
time,
bright
like,
complexion.
um,
And
So he was white.
like
I
I
mean,
mean,
he was-
I don't
he
completely
was an
like
Arab, right? But
No, I
he
mean,
was-
I wouldn't
he
say
had
like,
lighter
yeah, so
colored
I
skin.
believe
Blue.
objective
I wouldn't
morality.
call
I believe
him
that
white.
there are
I
certain
wouldn't
things
call
that
him
are right,
white
and
because
there are
that's
certain
I mean,
things that are wrong.
by
I hope
saying
so.
white, I'm not
Ethnically
necessarily
accurate.
saying
I mean,
blonde
I guess
eye,
there's
an
blonde,
overlap,
blonde
yes.
hair, blue
But I don't
eyes.
believe that our
But there are
morality-
different kinds of white
Exactly.
people. Like I lived in Portugal
we
most
have,
of my
yeah,
life,
we already have like a
and some
set of
people
rules,
say that
right?
Portuguese
I don't
aren't
believe
white.
that the morality
That's
or
very
the
untrue because
thing, like,
many
kind of
Portuguese
changes
are
with time.
very pale,
No, I
agree.
except that they have
Morality
brown eyes
must
and
be eternal
you know,
for all
brown
time
hair
for
or
people.
black
Yeah.
hair
Future
or
Yeah.
dark eyes.
So when
And
I
it's
hear
interesting
people
because
saying
through
things
Islam
like
we
God
also have
still
a chance
rule
of what
from
other
the Old
prophets
Testament to
looked
the New
like. So we know
Testament,
that
people go,
Moses
oh no,
was black.
God gave
He
one
had a
set
very
of
dark
rules,
complexion anyway,
and then you went,
because,
no, I'm changing
Prophet
that. Screw
Moses
that.
said.
That's
And
inconsistent
so-
with my whole
Yeah,
concept
so it
of
is
God.
interesting
Whatever
this
the rules were,
question
must
of
always
race
be the
and
rules.
how that plays out.
For the whole
in
cosmos
Christians.
It's as if
forward.
saying
We
God
never have
changed his
debates
mind and
about
you're saying
those
God is
things.
imperfect.
Exactly.
At least
Just
not
makes
that,
sense.
not
That's
that
good.
I
Perfect
agree.
analogy. Yeah,
That's
But I
good.
hear it in Christians.
We have have lots of people spewing out
So that's
cancer in
where
those debates.
the
Just so stupid.
Christian
I'm so tired.
interpretation, where it goes, well, we have to believe in Judaism because historically the Christian answer is the Old Testament Ten Commandments were real,
right? Like
and then God changed his mind.
apparently
and
can't
goes,
stand any depiction of the Prophet Muhammad.
Okay, all it could mean is that
No, I like
the
depictions.
New
I like
Testament is a
depictions
better
of
synthesis
historical
of what
figures,
was in the
especially.
Ten Commandments.
Like, we can look at
And
them.
you
We can
misunderstood
make a
the
movie
movie,
about
but it
them
can't be
when
God changed.
choosing an
Right,
actor that
right.
looks like them.
Doesn't make any sense.
No,
You know, like the
but I
Roman
do expect God
emperors.
to be sensitive.
We have depictions of them on the points.
I mean, if you want to
statues of
if
them,
you want to
we
believe
have
in the God,
paintings of them, so we
you have
can
to
kind of
believe that
know.
he's
I don't believe he's a
Different
practical
tastes
joker.
as well, I would
So, I mean,
say.
give me a break.
Islam
yeah.
tends, if you look at mosques, they tend to have
Oh,
a
we
more
concur, but you're a
subdued
Muslim.
Yes.
beauty where
Okay.
the
There's
walls and
no-
the art.
just because I'm a Muslim doesn't mean
I
Intrinsic
gotta
in the
disagree
architecture.
about
No,
something
no,
with
I assume there'll be
the
a
Muslims
spectrum.
though. I really
Maybe
don't
you
like
sound like
burqas and all that stuff. I really don't like it.
Were you?
I think it's a big
Sorry, I wasn't trying
attack
to make
against
comments.
beauty.
No, you're fine.
Yeah. No. Were you?
I think
What are they
women
on?
shouldn't hide.
Oh, we're back
We
on
had a
we're back on this.
conversation.
We've
I
done
know.
this.
I don't
Yeah.
think you should just walk naked. I don't think that.
No, I
Yeah,
think,
you should have
we
a-
should all walk naked one day. No, I think one day of the year, like Ramadan, everyone on the planet should spend one day
I feel like
naked. I think that'd be a
most people
positive.
would
Get out of
just-
here.
yeah.
No, seriously,
I'm
just
calling the
one-
police.
No,
just
I
one
need an
day.
adult.
Just to prove we can do it. Just that would be good. If we could do that, we'd have a very functional world. Then we go back to putting our clothes on. But if we could do that,
Okay,
I mean,
that
without
might be a
attacking-
funny experiment, but
There you go. Like your thing. Like you did when you did your thing. I think it's like it would be Ramadan the opposite of in a funny
Right.
kind of way. It
But
would be
I
a good
just,
thing, maybe.
I honestly just don't agree with women having only this part of their
Yeah.
skin visible, and sometimes not even that. Sometimes even this part is. I just don't find
There's
it.
there's a difference of opinion in that matter. Like it's not something that women like women don't have to cover their face in this.
Yeah,
like,
you said that.
Yeah. It's a cultural.
I know
a
it's
lot-
it
oftentimes it's a cultural
depends from
thing. I mean,
different Arabic cultures.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
different.
it's, yeah, it's not even Arabic. It's Islamic,
I
right?
mean, if you
Kind of
compare
is. I mean,
kind of
Islam
the way,
started in
like,
Arabia, so the
Muslim
Arabic
women dress
culture is
across
very linked to Islam.
Muslim countries, you'll find
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make that,
disproportionately
I
women
guess.
who live in the
So
Gulf.
that's how it is.
and possibly
I mean, the
North
Muslims
Africa
started
after the spread of
No,
Wahhabism,
because
in
in
Arabia.
Arab culture,
tend
they
to
can,
cover their face.
because
and
Arab
now
culture
Pakistan,
consists of a lot
Afghanistan
of
as well.
things.
But I mean, that goes into the
They
history
used
of
to
You're saying
how
it's
they
more of a
live.
cultural
life,
It is a culture.
right?
If you go to Indonesia or even Malaysia,
when you
Indonesia's
talk
the
about,
biggest
like, for
country
example,
in the
Arab
world, women
culture,
don't.
Yeah.
You know, they don't cover their faces.
Yeah, I
Women
mean,
in Turkey
Arab culture
tend to
now-
not cover their faces. Like,
for the most part, is
a lot of
synonymous
that
with Muslim
wearing the
culture,
burqa, I think, is
right?
More or
But at
less,
the
yeah.
same time, but in the
politicized
past, it
and-
wasn't
Yeah, and
necessarily
it just seems
like
I'm,
that.
look, if a woman
I mean,
sincerely,
when the
according
religion
to a
was
victor, I'll keep going about
basically
victor because I like the term.
there wasn't a lot of overlap.
Wants
with
to do
culture
it,
and
fine.
religion.
But my
There
concern,
was
it's
some
all about
overlap,
motive.
but not-
But my concern
not a
is
lot
that
of
very
overlap.
often
I think
it's
there was
social
actually.
pressure
Look,
which
man,
isn't aligned
how
with
did
vitra,
how did
or it's
the
just a
Middle East
husband who's
become
being
Muslim?
controlling, and
In
those
the
are not
beginning,
good
with the
motives
Arab
for
No,
doing
doing
it.
it,
absolutely.
right?
But I've
Muhammad
seen some
united
women
the
being
tribes,
interviewed who
he
are going,
converted
I
them to
so
Islam,
like
they
not
all
being
became
treated as
Muslims.
sex objects,
Blah,
I've
blah,
got
all
better
that
things to
stuff.
do with my time
What
right
was
now.
happening at
And I
that
can
point in
understand that's a
history
good
in the Middle
holiday.
East? There was
from
the
that
Eastern
experience,
Roman
and
Empire,
then that's a
and there
good
was the
motive.
Sassanid Empire.
But in an ideal world,
the
you wouldn't
Sassanid
feel that
Empire
pressure
were
in the
basically
first place.
Persians.
Absolutely.
They were the family of Sassan, which were a noble family. Now the Eastern Roman Empire were Romans. They were Byzantines. They were at war with each other, and they were, weakening each other with time. Now, in the beginning, the Arabs were kind of a border zone, but then when they started having more power, they started conquering lands from the Sassanids and from the Romans, not just from their own whim. They were attacked by the Romans and by the Sassanids because, empires attack each other. But, eventually the Muslims won the war against the Sassanids and they won the war against the Romans. And thus the Middle East, Turkey, Syria, most of Persia, like Egypt, they became Muslim countries. And at that point in time, Islam was fundamentally linked to Arab culture.
Yeah, but what united it was because, first of all, the geographic location. I mean, if you look at how Islam expanded, it expanded like, for example, naturally in that area, in that zone. So that's why majority of the Middle East is Muslim, because it was in and near Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, it makes sense for the neighboring countries to be Muslim because that's where Islam kind of started and expanded from.
Well, the culture of the Romans and of the Sassanids was very different to the culture of the Arabs,
So,
especially the Romans. The Romans had a completely
yeah, so
different
that's
kind
what
of
I'm
culture.
saying. The culture doesn't have much of an effect, or there's not much of an overlap. there's not much of an overlap between culture and religion.
Okay, do you think that the Egyptians now
I mean,
are
not
closer
much.
to the
I mean, there
ancient
is,
Romans,
but-
or they're closer to Arabs,
Not
to
much,
ancient
there
Arabs?
is.
Who are the Egyptians of
There is.
nowadays closer to, the ancient Romans or the ancient Arabs? I think the answer is obvious.
I didn't hear your question.
Who are the Egyptians and the Syrians and the Middle Easterners right now of the previous Eastern Roman Empire closer to? The ancient Romans or the ancient
I was
Arabs?
going to say, okay, so the geographic location and also language. They also had a common.
They used Latin. In Eastern Roman Empire was using Latin.
Eastern.
In fact, they were using Greek. I'm lying now, but the official language was Latin, but they usually used Greek because the Romans took a lot of their culture from the Greeks. They were very influenced by the Greeks. But the Sassanids themselves, they were using a Persian language. It wasn't Arabic.
Right.
They all started using Arabic after they were conquered by the Muslims.
I'm not too aware of the history, but
You can look it
No,
up.
clearly not.
You want. I'm honestly not lying. This is being filmed. If anybody wants to confront me of what I'm saying right now, I'm happy to argue with any person. I'm not a historian, but I did research this stuff. I did research it because I was very curious. How did it happen that Islam came into existence? How did Christianity come into existence? I just decided, I'm going to research a little
it's
bit.
a good question to
Plus,
ask.
there were lots of battles, and why did the Arabs win usually? Well, because they were usually hardy people that lived in the desert, and they were good warriors. They had very great mobility, especially against the Sassanids,
But
and
Arabs
they
also-
managed to defeat them many times.
But within the Arab communities, there were also a lot of warring tribes, and the Muslims
Yeah, but
were
before
greatly,
Muhammad united them.
Right, but I mean, they were greatly. Muhammad had united a small band of people to begin with, but they
No,
still.
he united almost all of the Arabs.
Initially, right?
Okay, initially, fine.
But then initially, I'm talking about very early stages. They still beat
Fair enough.
people while they were greatly outnumbered. And there's a lot of there are a lot of stories about how God kind of sent down His help.
The thing
and they were
is,
able
the
to
Arabs
kind
were
of conquer.
only at war with the Romans and with the Sassanids long after Muhammad. Muhammad was long dead when they started the war against the Sassanids and when they took over the Sassanid Empire.
So what's the
I
point that
guess,
we're trying to
well,
get to?
yeah, so like the
My point is that religion is linked to culture. For example, Christianity was very much linked to the Eastern Roman culture. That's why
Yeah. I can see.
it's linked.
Yeah.
to them.
I
They're
mean,
linked
everything's
together.
connected to your environment.
that
It's just a
makes- yeah, that
natural
makes
stimulation on your ideas.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a good or a
crazy if
bad
it
thing,
wasn't.
but it's just how it works in history.
Yeah.
Like Buddhism, for example, is very linked to the Chinese culture. Hinduism, very linked to the Indian culture.
Well, Buddha was a Hindu from. Was he East Asian? He was definitely East.
Buddha, okay,
I mean, I think
so
he was actually South Asian.
yes,
now that I think
I'm
about it.
pretty. Okay, you got me there. I'm not certain about that. As far as I know, Buddha was Indian, so I think you're right about that. But Buddhism, as far as I know, had much more support in in China than in India. India was more about Hinduism, as far as I know. But I'm not. Don't call me out on that because
Don't think
I'm
they're
not,
filming.
I'm not that good in
They're not filming,
Hinduism and in Buddhism. What I know is that the culture is linked to the religion usually, and
Which you think comes first? You see, the culture comes ahead of the religion. Yeah, the culture comes
they're intermingled
first.
together.
Yeah, I think
it's hard to say.
But if
which
you've got to
one
pick a
comes
prime
before.
mover, actually, you've got to define what you mean by culture.
That's a
I
good
know
question.
People chunk the word culture
Okay, that's
out there,
subjective.
and
That's a good
actually,
question. What
if it
comes
just
before
means
religion
I
or
eat Chinese
culture?
food, I don't care.
They
You
just
want.
they just influence each other. I would say culture comes just slightly before religion, but at the same time, we did have shamanic religions before we had any kind of culture, and before we had written history. There were shamanic cultures.
Oh, you
shamanic
mean more like
religions.
society? You mean culture as sort of a formal structure
Yeah,
of
yeah,
society?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I meant culture.
So I
as a
guess religion, in
value.
terms of shamanic cults, came before culture. It's very hard to say. It's a very good question, but it's a very difficult answer.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that culture and religion Islamically don't necessarily overlap is because if you look at Islam now, there are people like majority of Muslims, like for example, in Indonesia, like the majority of Muslims are like in Indonesia.
Yeah, Indonesia is Muslim.
Indonesia
Yeah.
is
That's
not
true.
doesn't have any overlap with Arab culture, for example.
Yeah, true,
and
true.
also if you look
That's
at
true.
Nigeria, I think it's the second or third. biggest Muslim
Yeah.
country. It's one of the top 5, I think.
Yeah.
And so if you look at Nigeria, which is an African country, right?
Yes.
It has not like hardly any overlap with Arab culture. So this is why I said that there's like a difference between both. But that's like the modern definition. Yeah, I understand what you were saying with like Christian. I mean,
They
you can
are
also
far
make that
away.
argument
You're
with
taking
the-
the extremes.
Yeah.
Like, for example, there are lots of Christians. Right now, the biggest growing community of Christianity in the world is in China. That's actually pretty funny. China is the biggest growing Christian community in the world. And the Chinese don't, their culture is different to the Western culture. Very, very different.
Yeah.
How is it possible then? It's an exception.
Well,
So,
religion
it's an
tends
exception.
to be more
But
attractive
look,
in third world countries.
What I'm saying is, the countries that were a bit closer to the genesis, to the beginning of Islam, became very much influenced by the Arabic culture. Very much influenced. And again, the Persians were much more similar to the Arabs than the Romans were.
I actually have to disagree with that because the Persians looked down on the Arabs. They called the Arabs lizard eaters, and for them to actually accept Islam was
as bad as it gets.
Yeah, it was very
Yeah.
painful
No, and
because the Persians had a big empire
right, and
before.
it was a shock.
It was, I know. It was very painful for them to be overtaken by a bunch of people who lived in the deserts. But the thing is, the Arabs were very hardy people, and that's exactly the reason why they defeated the Persians. Because the Persians were used to a good life.
Were also quite hardy and arrogant.
They are arrogant, but they were not very hard. They were hardened by wars. Look, I'll give you the example of the Mongols. The Mongols, they lived in the steppes. How the hell does a people who live in yurts, who live in the steppes, how the fuck did they take over the world? Because they were master horse riders, they were master archers. They had very great discipline. They wouldn't run away. They were very cunning. They were very, very battle-hardened people. And that's why they kept defeating numerically superior armies. They had very great cunning, very great military abilities. The Arabs functioned by the same, they did function by the same logic.
But
they were much
that's
harder.
not the only way that Islam spread, though. A lot of how Islam spread through South Asia and East Asia was through trade.
Yes. There were many countries that spread in a different way. But
any
I would
religion
say
that's spreading through violence is probably
but
that's not a plus point.
Yes.
No,
Spreading
certainly
through
not.
trade
I mean,
is better.
And then there was a little bit of, there was conquering, but I think that people like to kind of label different empires and say, oh, well, like Islam and Christianity both had very like violent beginnings, but you need to look at the differences in their expansion, right? Like I think the expansion of Islam and let's just compare, the Arab conquests to the Mongolians. Like they were just two very different nations. The Mongols, wherever they went, they destroyed like mosques and like.
Yeah, the Mongols were more ruthless, but that's not what I'm comparing.
Killed people,
it's good that you mentioned that because that's not what I'm comparing. I'm just comparing the military prowess.
Right. I mean,
that's what I'm comparing.
Right, but I think since we are talking about military prowess, there's just there's different ways around it, and I think the Arabs kind of were bound by.
The Arabs were much more respecting of the cultures that they conquered.
And those were outlined.
They
by
didn't
the
massacre
Quran.
the Christians.
They
when
did.
They took
They
that. No,
did.
there was a city when they conquered it, the big one in which one was it?
Was it Cordova or not?
I'm not sure. They could have.
Cordoba, Damascus, Antioch, Jerusalem.
Okay, this guy knows the history. One of those
Alexandria.
Anyway. Logically, they should have massacred all the Christians, but they didn't. Specifically, they let them
I think
go.
that was in Egypt.
Which one was that? Was that in Egypt?
Yeah, I forget. I don't.
Okay, because I think
but
the
look,
Christians
I
had
think-
previously
I'll tell you
massacred
one
them,
thing.
so logically you'd
the
thought
Arabs,
they'd do it.
the Arabs. I don't see the Arabs as the good guys of conquest. As,
neither am
I
I,
sometimes
definitely
get
not.
some Muslims who tell me the most preposterous things in the world. They kept telling me, but the Arab conquest was peaceful. And I'm like,
Okay, that's-
what? How
yeah,
is
you can't
conquest
say it's
peaceful?
peaceful.
No.
They were like, because they surrounded the cities and they would ask them to convert to Islam, and only then they would attack them.
I know, but
How is that peaceful?
Relatively speaking, though, I think you can make judgments.
They were
about-
better than the Mongols.
They were
much.
right.
But then again, the Mongols were amongst the worst conquerors
Right.
ever.
Aren't you just comparing bad against worse?
Yeah.
That's not a
No, but the Arabs,
Ideally, you
look,
don't want to be attacking people in the first place.
The Arabs were not as bad.
And it's certainly not a way to persuade anybody of a religious position. I
Right,
mean,
no, certainly not. I'm just saying, like, I think it's important to kind of, but I feel like the Arabs could have been worse if it weren't for their
I'm sure,
restraint with like the Qur'an.
They
Nazis
didn't use
could be
many
worse.
infrastructures of the Roman Empire for themselves. They didn't just destroy everything and fuck everything.
Right, exactly. Where, you know, and I think that that's a good example of then where, you know, lack of a moral code can actually lead to this, like a much worse outcome than
the point was
the.
Muhammad, I think,
think
would
it's
have
because they
approved
were-
of those
they were
invasions.
Muslim.
I don't
Yeah?
think so. No.
Oh, okay. Because I think Jesus,
I
like
think
all
it's
the
because
things the
the
Crusaders
Mongols
did,
were much-
Jesus wouldn't have
okay.
approved of the stuff the Crusaders did. Yeah.
Yeah,
So some
exactly.
people might
No,
go,
no,
look at the
so-
Christians you guys
No, of
invaded,
course.
and I go, well, if you check with Jesus, he would have gone, no. That's
Yeah.
not. That's just
Yeah,
some
and
guys
I
flying
think you
my
could-
flag.
I think you could
Whereas
say the same thing.
you think Muhammad wouldn't have approved of those
Not the-
conquests,
not the way-
even though he did initiate and spearhead some himself. You think the
No,
latter one?
I don't.
True.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that premise because the thing is that like, I don't know, saying like ifs and buts, like, I mean, it didn't happen. Obviously, he wasn't alive at that time, or when they did those.
So we can't really say definitively.
No, I
right?
know,
Yeah.
we never could do definitively, but we're making
But,
judgment
I mean,
based on evidence, yeah? So
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
mean,
looking
I-
for
What's the
definitive.
question,
I'm
guys?
not
What's
sure.
the question?
The question, I'm noticing the difference in going, Jesus wouldn't have approved of the Crusades.
Yes.
I think we can concur with that.
Yes,
The
yes.
teachings of the Gospel don't, so I think if the guy, so they've misrepresented
Yes.
Jesus, yeah?
Yeah.
The question was, therefore, did the Islamic conquistadors
Yeah.
misrepresent
Okay.
Islam?
And I don't
Given
know.
that in the beginning
know.
Muhammad
Okay, that's a
himself
good
was
question.
what
That's
it
a great
implies,
question.
maybe not.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And my answer to that is Christianity had a very different beginning to Islam. Islam was about Muhammad uniting the different Arab tribes, which usually happened by the sword. It
By the
was
what?
by the sword. It was violent.
Uniting the
Now
tribes.
Christianity had also a violent beginning, but it wasn't the same kind of violence because the Christians began by being, the Christians in the Eastern Roman Empire, they were called Christianity was called the religion of the slaves. Because the ones who were practicing Christianity the most were the most downtrodden, the worst of the bottom. The people who were completely destroyed, completely crushed by the society, and they wanted a savior. They wanted somebody to save them, to help them get up and become something. They loved the idea of equality, the idea of the slaves were equal to the masters. There were no slaves in Christianity. They loved that, and thus they were thrown to the Colosseum. They were prosecuted until the Eastern Roman Empire became a Christian country. We have many stories about martyrs in the Sassanid Empire. That the Sassanids tortured Christians to make the Byzantine Empire make bad moves and invade them rashly and get defeated in battle. They were doing it to provoke them many times. Now, the beginning of Islam was very different. It was about unification of different tribes of Arabs. And that's about it. Muhammad wanted to unite Saudi Arabia under, one banner. He wanted
Saudi
to unite
Arabia
them.
didn't exist at that time.
It
and I
wasn't
don't
called
know
Saudi
if I-
Arabia. I know it very well.
Yeah.
I'm just calling it for
I
the
know,
geographic area.
But I disagree.
The Saudis are a royal family. I know about that.
That then means it was a political
Noble
maneuver
family.
that turned into an
Right,
ideology,
exactly.
as opposed to Christianity would be an ideology that then
That was-
mutated negatively into
I think
political
so.
stuff.
And
yeah?
that premise, I disagree with that because the premise, as a Muslim, I would say that Muhammad came with the message and said that this is a new religion and I'm going to preach it, and it had very little. It had very little to do with political, gaining political
but
advantage.
he did.
There were some political
He
benefits.
did wage
to
war
that.
on other tribes to unite them.
Right. I think that the political aspect that you're talking about was sort of like an after effect of the religious message. That
I think you're saying the prime mover was
Right.
spiritual teaching, which
Right.
then manifested
Okay, fair
as.
enough.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
And I think
Yeah,
in
'cause
order
that's
for
very
it to
important if
spread,
it's that way around.
it had
Fair
to politicize and it had to
But
spread.
look, Muhammad was also a military leader.
Yeah.
He also waged war.
Later, after
Jesus never waged war.
No.
Yeah.
Jesus was
Yeah.
all about helping
Love,
the
peace.
unfortunate.
Yeah, it's good.
And again, you can talk bad about.
How do you
When
know?
if you're
how do
saying
you-
about Muhammad was a leader of the war, but the people not trying to kill him, so he was trying to fight back. So
Yeah,
he
but
was
the people were also trying to kill Jesus. He never fought back.
two different contexts, two different like spaces.
They have very different origins, very different.
I mean, but the thing is that we believe that
a very different beginning.
Yeah, but I mean,
But
so
he didn't
what's your
preach-
point?
He didn't preach fight. And he did
Jesus.
Muhammad. He didn't preach for people to go out and have wars or to fight. He was battling for himself to survive and what he wanted and what he believed in.
Not exactly. He wanted to unite the different Arabic tribes under one banner and unite them under Islam. So he waged war on some of them.
But that's the difference
big
between
difference.
us.
Well, I think-
When you're saying
I
about
think-
tribes, they came out after he was dead, and that's where it split into different tribes, what you're trying to say.
No, the tribes, listen,
Because
the Arabs were very split.
you've got Sunnis, you've got Shiites, and you have a lot more.
No,
but then
no. Forget
Muslim-
about the Sunni and the Shia.
Yeah,
No, bro.
that's what I'm trying to get to.
No.
I was
That's
gonna say,
what
I
I'm
think
talking about.
The Arab tribes were very
Dive in,
separated.
you gotta hit it.
There was the Roman Empire, there was the Sassanid Empire, which were the
Unfortunately,
Persians.
he's very
And
good.
on
He
the
actually
south,
knows stuff. He's not just
in
loud.
in
He
Saudi
actually knows
Arabia,
stuff.
not
Right
called
now
Saudi
his
Arabia, but it wasn't called like that on that
Yeah,
time.
he seems to have a brain
There
with a
were
lot of
many
it.
Arabic tribes.
His
living
analysis
in
is wrong,
cities,
but
in
it's
the
facts,
desert.
right?
Many of them were nomads.
And then they were Muslims, that's the thing.
No,
And
there were
Actually,
not
his analysis
Muslims
is
in the
quite-
because
beginning.
even when you think about Muhammad, where he travelled from or where he got to, he was trying to preach what he believed in. So that's what
I
you're
don't
trying to say.
understand the question.
I'm trying to say, you're saying that when you mean about all the Arabs were around, what do you mean where he was trying to do, when he tried to bring them all together? What do you mean by he tried to bring them all together?
It was like Jesus began Christianity, Muhammad began Islam.
So he's basically a prophet, that's what you're trying to say, the same as what Jesus was. You believe in Jesus
Yeah,
being
he's
the
a
Son of
Muslim
God.
prophet.
You believe in Jesus being the Son of God.
I'm not a religious person.
No, he's.
We have been.
He
I'm
doesn't
talking about
formally
history.
believe
Yeah,
that.
I'm not talking about the holiness of
Yeah.
Muhammad or the holiness of Jesus. I'm talking about what they did historically. Historically speaking, purely historically, no miracles, none of that stuff.
Okay,
Just
so
history.
based on what you just said, the way that you explained it was that Muhammad had to spread the religion of Islam by fighting
He
other
didn't
tribes,
have
right?
to do it.
And
He
I
did
think
it.
that's true. He did fight battles, but I think the chronology of that is wrong. A lot of the tribes were threatened by this rise of Islam and Muhammad's growing power, so they waged war on Muhammad and his followers. And in order to defend himself, Muhammad didn't
That's
want
not
to fight.
untrue.
He didn't want to fight. He sort of responded to.
Incidentally, you might want to move in. He is filming, so you might want to just
No,
get
yeah,
closer
that's a
to
good
the mic.
point. That's a
Might
good
make
point.
sense if he
Obviously,
is filming.
just like Jesus was attacked when he started expanding his faith
Right, so
on the
so-
people, Muhammad was attacked too.
Yeah.
It's just that their reaction was different.
Yeah.
Jesus chose
But-
to sacrifice
but-
himself. He
right.
chose to take it all to just die. That's
But
it.
that's because
Muhammad
was
chose to
told,
fight back.
He was told to fight back. He was the divine
I'm sorry, but that's a
revelation.
silly
but-
excuse. By whom?
the-
By
the-
God.
okay,
I
wait,
know,
so-
yeah,
so
and
what
this
are you
is where
supposed to
this
do?
is where
What are you
this
supposed
is
to do?
where
If someone's
Revelation-
attacking- No, but if someone's attacking you, right, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to just let them kill you?
Yeah, you see, this is
Well,
where
that's
reasonable. I'm not
what-
attacking.
that's
Why
what
would you do
happened.
But this is where
Why would
Jesus
You
trumps-
fight back.
I think
If I get
trumps
attacked
Islam
now,
by
I'm gonna
going,
fight
hang
back.
on,
I'm not
Jesus.
doing
Yeah, of course you're gonna fight back.
But
and that makes sense.
I'm not attacking Muhammad, man. Guys, I think you're misunderstanding something. I'm not
Yeah, I
saying
think
Jesus good,
it
Muhammad
is.
bad,
And I'm
end
not
of
saying
story.
I'm a
I'm
pacifist.
saying
Yeah, but
their
and I don't think
reaction
Jesus was
to
a
being
pacifist,
attacked
but I do
was
think-
different. Jesus
You don't think
decided,
that's
and I actually side
pacifistic?
more
You
with
don't think
Muhammad on
that's
this
the
one.
epitome
Because,
of
you know, I
pacifism?
I do, but
admire
I
that
think-
Jesus just decided to be peaceful
Because
to
I
the very
believe
end.
that all of this is
But
about sliding
that's
scales.
not me.
It's
I
about
wouldn't
chop
just
them
think
out.
Are you
It's
talking
about
about
trying
the
to
time when he got
optimize that
when he was
journey.
crucified?
I don't believe
What?
it's black
Yes,
and white.
yes.
Because I don't
Or
think
second
thou
word,
shalt not
we
kill,
believe that
it's
he was
okay.
not crucified,
I think
but his
the
copy
ideal
was
is not to
crucified. But
kill.
His what?
His,
And on
Okay,
the
you won't
sliding
believe in this,
scale
but his
now,
copy
you
was
look at how you
crucified.
should
His
do
what?
it.
His
Where it
copy,
trusts
like-
them.
Yeah.
Copy.
You know what, let them for a second.
The dog.
Stop them on this point. That's a good point.
Copy.
Also, at some
Copy.
point, they
Like
have
someone
to
else that
actually
looks
go
like
home.
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
I was
cloned.
gonna say.
He got cloned.
Yeah, so we believe that.
We on cloning. How did this happen?
Jesus' clone
Mere-
got
mere-
crucified, not Jesus.
No. Yeah, it wasn't. And Jesus was raised to heaven.
That's
So
a
again,
Muslim.
I'm
yeah.
sorry,
You
guys,
don't
but
have
that's
to
just
go
too
to
Yes,
much.
if you don't
Jesus'
believe in
clone.
that,
Jesus is
No,
cloned.
no.
he wasn't cloned. There was someone else. Anyway, there was
I know
a
his
Muslim-
copy. He said copy.
No, I don't think he
I'm the one who said
resurrected.
clone.
And let's be clear, I'm not advocating. I don't think he. Well, better still. I think the
if you believe in
crucifixion
the-
works better
the
if he
divinity
doesn't
and the-
resurrect.
Yeah, so the
well, you don't
Muslim
believe in this, but
belief is
Christians
that he was,
believe in
it
the
wasn't
divinity
Jesus who
and
died on the cross. It was another
like I
man
guess
who
like
looked
the
exactly like Jesus.
deity.
Okay,
of-
But
that's
Jesus-
fairly silly.
Right.
But Jesus
They
was
would probably
resurrected and he's in heaven with,
kind of be more
or
inclined
he's
to
not in
believe in
heaven,
what
but
this-
he's not in heaven. He's
because-
in some sort of like
yeah.
sort of space.
That's crazy.
Away from people, and will come back as the Messiah.
Okay, guys, but let's not go to religion. We were doing history. Let's keep on doing some history for now. Let me just.
Excuse me. We've got a thing going where you're doing this and we're doing that. I'm trying to. How do we get on the same page? No, we don't have to. We can get on your page, or you can get on our page.
We'll do your page.
So
I'm not sure what my page is.
So basically, Muhammad united the Arab tribes, and most of the Arabs were united. Of course, they still had wars between them, but more or less united under Islam, right?
Yes.
Eventually, they came into contact with the Roman Empire, with the Sassanid Empire, and those guys were not nice guys. Obviously, you don't build an empire by being a nice guy. They had battles with the Muslims, with the Arabs, and they attacked the Arabs, and they got attacked by the Arabs. Nobody can say for certain who started it, who began it. It's just how humans were in their empires. And when they got into conflict with each other, the Arabs took over the Sassanid Empire. Then they defeated the Romans. They took over most of the Roman Empire.
With respect, this is turning into a brilliantly erudite history lesson. I don't think anyone's arguing with it. I'm trying to find a common point of constructive contention. A basic point that we might disagree on, learn from each other on, or something that. Because I think your history lesson is right. And I think you're giving a history lesson devoid of.
I give lectures, 10 pounds per hour.
You're giving history, and I think he's right. He knows a lot. How about this? I'll take a pop at Islam based on the fact that I think where Islam and, say, Christianity differ, and I think Christianity has the edge on this in a few areas, but here's one in particular. It seems to me that Islam thinks the function of Christianity is to create a highly functional society. In other words, it's essentially political aspiration. It thinks it's within its remit to try and create a functional society, Sharia law, etc.
I think this is why I dislike this the term political Islam, because it really isn't as concerned with that as it is one's own relationship with the divine and one's own relationship with their family and their community. So
still even community, but I think more internal. Christianity would go pretty much, and certain other religions like Buddhism would go, there's the Godhead and there's you, and this is all about your personal relationship with them.
I mean, Islam is a little more didactic.
And Islam is more like, the test of it is the whole thing. And I think that's a mistake. I think that's politics. And I think the Christian, Buddhist, whatever paradigm goes like this.
I mean, but why would Christian and Buddhism overlap?
Because I think they've got their common denominator.
Yeah, but that's your subjective opinion.
Please don't. Please don't. Everything is my subjective opinion. The question is
if he has reasonable proof for it, he can prove it.
You don't get this in Buddhism either. So what I'm suggesting is, it seems the paradigm in, say, Buddhism, Christian, this view is your job is to try and make yourself the best individual you can be. And if you do and other people do, they will naturally and organically create functional societies. So they're going, if you give me a world full of Leonardo da Vinci's, guess what? Whatever political system you've got, you'll end up with a good world. Because it's filled with such high quality human beings that they're going to get it right even if you've got disordered systems, They'll work it out and they'll make ordered systems, So what comes first is high quality individuals creating the society, whereas it feels like Islam may be doing a top-down thing where it goes, we need to create a really good society in order to create high-quality individuals, and I think that's going the wrong way.
I mean, I think you're wrong there, just because Islam is more concerned with the individual's relationship.
I may have misconstrued Islam, but I get the feeling.
Right, well, and it's interesting because unfortunately a lot of the rhetoric around Islam does revolve around that.
Yes, it does. I think a lot of people who follow Islam believe what I'm saying. They may be misguided, but they seem to believe that it's their job to create a very functional society.
And I think Islam is more concerned with the role of the individual and of the family. So there's a lot, there are a lot more rules around how to, for instance, like write a will and how to treat like your, that kind of overlaps with Christianity as well, but it's just a lot more specific in Islam, right? And
There's nothing in Christianity
does
that wants to advocate the equivalent of Sharia law. There's nothing which says we want to transpose our ideology into a law court.
But
That's just
that
not
doesn't.
there.
I mean, it doesn't exist in the Quran either. I think.
No, it does. I mean, it does exist in the Quran. I would.
The ancient Christian kings and emperors, they would be coronated by the Pope usually.
Yeah, but again,
They
would
got their
Jesus
power
have-
from
okay,
God.
Would
officially.
Jesus have approved of that? There's nothing in
I mean,
Jesus'
but
teaching
I
that
also
goes.
think I would also think that Muhammad would say that like Muslims need to learn how to deal with whatever political systems they're presented with. I don't think Muhammad.
I mean,
needed-
so
I
there,
hope
there,
so.
I mean, in Sharia, right? If we're talking about
I mean, what
Sharia,
is the Sharia
basically,
also? It's just
no.
so-
It
it's
is,
a
it
loose
is,
book of,
it is a set of
loose
laws.
idea of
Yeah,
interpretation.
but
Oh, you guys don't totally agree.
no, I was with my sister, but I don't.
Oh, I didn't realize. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we don't agree.
We don't agree on everything. We agree on a lot.
That's your sister, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, in Sharia, right? In
saw you
Sharia
had
law,
something,
we have
something
to
similar.
obey the law of the land.
Do you see the
So
resemblance?
basically,
Yeah.
I saw there
us
was
being in the UK, we have to obey whatever laws are in this land, so long as it is like compatible and almost like everything is compatible, right? Like basically, don't steal, don't kill somebody, don't do anything like stupid,
more
and
about
basically like
as much
all
about
that stuff, and also anything else like
the looks. It's about the behavior.
like
Really
drive
funny.
your I don't know
Something feels similar.
That's
Yeah.
what it is here, right? 18. Okay, yeah. So for example, like those things, like this is Sharia, like this is also part of Sharia. So like,
True.
I mean, I think you're saying something about like obeying or following like rules.
It just seemed the aspiration of Islam, maybe it's been misrepresented to me, was the litmus test of how well is it doing is how good a society and organisation and rules politically have we made, and I think then I got it wrong.
No, I think that that's true. That's the perception of it, and that
Okay.
unfortunately a lot of modern day Islamic
that's
governments
the
do. It does seem like this totalizing force, right?
Yeah.
But it's.
It really does.
It really, but it's not. Like if you go back to the text and if you read it and if you look at the life of Muhammad, it's just there's so many more rules about how you should behave in different contexts
I'll
as
trust
an
you.
individual.
I'll trust you on it.
And I mean,
Islamic-
you can open up a translation of the Quran and read it for yourself and see that I think God's just warning us as individuals, and it's really just it's mostly about that.
Here's one I heard. Sorry, then I'll thank you.
Yeah.
Just
Sorry, no.
left field. Thank you. You
I think
convinced me.
well, I think you should, and I think you should open up the Quran and just see for yourself. You'll see very little.
I got a copy at home.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. I'd already
You just
done.
read it.
I mean,
read
I
it
think
the
we're
Quran
kind of
doesn't
coming a
necessarily
little bit
have
to the
anything
whole
like,
argument I had a while
basically
ago
government.
about
Like,
religion
there's
being
no
a
mention
tool
of government. It
that
only focuses on the
enforces
fundamentals of
practices that
Like, it
function in
focuses on-
society.
I thought
A
the eight
tool that
pillars,
enforces
like,
power.
the last three
kind of.
pillars of the eight pillars is very much
And I
about
always
eight
gave the
pillars.
example
You've
about
got the five
the
pillars.
thief,
If
the
you're
policeman.
a
He
Sunni,
will
and
steal
you've got eight
if he's not being washed, but he won't steal.
I'm not too aware of the Shia.
I gave
I
that
think they've
example.
got three more, which are
I
more
think
about
that's
following an
basically
imam. And
mean,
you
one
have
of
to
the
try and
reasons
convert
everyone-
people in, and it
If you omit
becomes
the
more
overall
I don't know much
socially
about
proactive.
I mean, the majority
have answers
agreed
for their
upon
questions. It can't be answered.
pillars are the five pillars of Islam.
That is the most important.
I mean, even in the Shia.
For me,
Oh, okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
No,
it's
absolutely.
reasonable.
I mean,
I think most,
I would
most
say like
people
Five
wouldn't,
give
most
answers to the
people wouldn't
poor
believe in basic
and
human
Ramadan
values if it
and
wasn't for
praying
their belief in some kind of
and
religious
Mecca and
some
protestation.
kind of higher power.
Okay, that's five.
Yeah, I think the
There's
only
definitely
difference,
four
the only
which
thing
think
that I actually
which are
really disagree
doing
with you
imams
guys
and
is about
converting
the faith itself, and about
Yeah.
feeling well, about
maybe
obeying God.
Maybe, no, I'll look at
And then
I don't like obeying.
but I think I'm right. I think
I guess.
Where do you think
I'm
that
not- I'm
comes
not
from?
aware
Not
of
to
this.
like.
Not liking to obey.
Right.
ideology or
Maybe I obeyed too
Anyway.
much. I never obeyed my parents.
I think that interpretation.
Yes, it's just part of me. I'm just that kind of a
If that's
monster.
Rebellious.
you don't.
I know, right?
right. Yeah.
The beast that can't be caged. Yeah.
You guys don't like gay people. There you go.
Oh,
Okay.
throw them down
So-
buildings.
No, we're all getting on so well. We need to add something.
This is the difference, or this is where we differ. So, this is what a lot of people will say. For someone to be gay in and of itself is okay. But the thing is that a person cannot act upon their desires. Like just in the same way that I'm physically attracted to women. I'm heterosexual, right? If I see a woman, right, I can't necessarily just go and ask her like let's go have some sex. Like even if she consents to it, like it has to be within a set of rules and laws. Like I have to be married to her. I have to we have to basically get married first, right? And in the same way. I mean, yeah, you cannot necessarily get married to the same gender. But the thing is that like our view of this is that you can have the attraction, right? But you will not be punished. You will not be punished for the physical.
God for the physical. Yeah, that would be insane.
There's no way that any sort of feeling for the same sex, even if you really.
That's some uncertainty there. You don't know.
For acting on it, there's a lot of
But the same comes
Acting
from
actually
actually.
means-
That's a good line.
That's
It's a good line. It's a good line. But it's
That's
wrong.
If you have
It's a
sex,
good-
I mean,
it leads
that's where
you
the
clear
that's where you go to
hurdle.
hell.
The first hurdle is
According
it would be
to-
terrible
I mean,
to
Okay.
judge
I wouldn't-
somebody.
I
Okay,
wouldn't
but
phrase
look,
it
look,
like that.
now a
That's
serious
a bit
question,
harsh.
At
serious
least you're
question.
condemning the feeling.
Is it
God
gay?
is
You're
upset
absolutely, the moral
according
pivot
to-
point is always choice.
Is it
And
gay
the fact
if
that
the
you
balls
conclude
don't
that to make
touch?
the choice to do
And
that
you have
is
to
wrong.
also understand that
That's just like,
in
you
Islam,
I'm joking,
it's
I'm
not a
joking.
police state. So, for example,
Is it gay if you
people
say
were
no
having,
homo, bro?
Sex right in their
That
in
shouldn't
their
be
room,
gay.
right? This is between.
I'm joking, I'm joking. No, but look,
This wasn't a
I
police
think-
state. I'm
I
just talking about
think-
morally impure. What is wrong?
Yeah.
Nowadays, we kind of
people
see homosexuals
sex,
as this
having sex.
weird
Yeah,
alien. I mean, it's very different from some people to others because there's part
know
of the
you do
population
want
now,
to-
especially in the West, who
what's
sees
the
gays.
moral-
Oh, you know,
because,
it's
I
cool
mean,
to be gay. Let's all be
apart
gay.
from that,
Gay. Ha ha ha. He's so funny because he's gay.
Because naturally,
That's the
you don't- you
politically
don't
correct
necessarily
idea.
draw
Now, the other
civilization
side of the
between men and
spectrum
women
is the
are ones that generally-
the kind of
you can only produce children.
Yeah, no, that
men
makes
and
sense.
women.
But the
So-
conclusion
conservative idea that oh no, gays haram, I don't like, I don't
No,
like.
no, it's
Or
not-
the Christians themselves, they also don't like
You
gays.
can't help
Actually,
it,
to
right?
go from
Attraction
that
is
to
innate.
conclude that
I mean,
anything which
Yes,
isn't
yes,
that
yes.
is therefore
It's
wrong.
just a matter of
I totally
whether,
agree with you.
I
what
am not
decisions you
functionally
make
saying
given
to somebody
given
and
the
say,
feelings
like,
you have.
Yeah. I
what
think it's a matter of understanding and a matter of
And that extends beyond dating.
I'm not like
Yeah.
that
It
kind of
extends
person.
to-
But no, I would,
And a
I
matter
would say
of,
that like
dealing
again,
with
the
it.
feeling is okay.
Because,
but the
when a
physical
person
action
is gay,
in Islam,
it shouldn't be
no.
seen as something,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah, I know.
completely unacceptable. But what
Yeah, so
should
for
be
you it doesn't
done
make sense,
is
but
that
for me it
But if
people
it's- I know,
shouldn't
but
call
the
themselves gay just
justification
to
why it makes
feel
sense.
popular or just to,
Sex
you know, to be able to act arrogant to other
it is
people.
for
Because there's this stereotypes about homosexuals being very arrogant, being very cocky, blah 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 blah. I don't think that's actually beneficial for the gay people
one of my
themselves.
friends said,
You know, in ancient Greece, they had a saying that true love, I don't really agree with that saying, but they did have it.
anything
True
which
love
isn't
only
purely
exists between men.
functionally
That women are only there to
somehow
reproduce.
wrong. That may not
Yeah.
They said that.
follow. Why does that
I don't agree with it. But it means
If
that
I
Those
think
are just saying
that
it
you
was
know
very
the
common
ideology
practice.
was
If you're
so
born gay,
polarly different
didn't
to what
choose it.
some people have
So
now.
that condition that you've been
How can we know what's the right way of dealing with gays? How can we know? I think that we should just deal with them like normal people. We should just consider them, you know, if they are decent people, they are good people, they are intelligent. I know a gay guy. I knew a gay guy in my class long ago. Very intelligent guy, incredibly intelligent guy. But he had one flaw, one fatal flaw. When he started go the hysterical gay stereotype. That's it. You can't talk to him. You couldn't talk to him after that because he would go hysterical. He would go, really flamboyant. He would really let himself go, and you can't reason with him at that point. And that was a real shame because he's a very intelligent person. I had great conversations with him, especially about philosophy, about politics, not about politics, but about philosophy. Really interesting guy. Just a shame that he, sometimes he has that flaw. But what can you do? Everybody has that.
No, I hear. No, I get. I understand.
I think the main point of dealing
That
with
necessarily links
homosexuals.
to his gayness either.
Because I'm looking at
Could
You're
just
right,
be
you're
a
right,
personality
morally
quirk,
true and important
You're right.
from
We
that
should learn to
take
deal with homosexuals better than we deal with them now. Because some people just want them to fuck off, want them to be burned at the stake, which I don't agree with.
Which I think
And I
any
also,
reasonable Muslim also
Yeah,
disagree with fundamentally.
but I also don't agree with just saying, being gay is cool, it's funny, it's nice. I don't see them as cooler or as better or worse than usual people that I find. I just find them a little bit different. That's the main difference. I think we shouldn't give it too much importance. We should just consider them as other people, because if we don't give it too much importance, people won't give them too much hypocritical love, and they won't give them too much ignorant hate. I think that's the point where we should
So it's kind of
base
normalizing
ourselves.
it then, in a sense.
Not normalizing
Or
it, because
making it less
normalizing
cool.
it,
And I must try and do that.
more like that,
Yeah, okay.
making it
less desirable.
not a normal thing, not a thing that is perfectly normal to have,
Because
because
trying to
look,
grapple with
if
things
everybody
that are
becomes
So
gay now, we're
I
fucked.
don't think just because
I mean, we're not fucked. We'll probably still reproduce as a species, but
But yeah, I feel it.
yeah,
No, it wasn't comfortable.
I don't think that's a good way to go for all men to become gay. I don't think that's a
that
good way
makes
to go.
things tough.
You don't think so?
It
I
does
don't
raise
think
the
it's a good way to go to
But
an
what's
extreme.
good news is
To all men
I still
need
think I
to be
should
gay,
get
or
well.
all men, no man can be
Okay,
gay.
okay, sure.
I don't think those are good ways to go. I think the good way to go
Then
is
how would you
to
morally behave?
I mean,
accept
there's a lot of
gays,
benefits
accept
you get from
homosexuals
Yeah.
in society,
Yeah.
but not
or
give them
afterlife, there's a lot of
the
benefits
kind of
you
credit
behaving
that they are the special snowflakes, the special beings that you know they can laugh, they can make fun of everyone, but you can't make fun of them because it's not politically correct.
or any deity,
It's a
not
double
you
standard.
necessarily, but any
Yeah.
atheist. Like
I think,
anyone who
in
doesn't
fact, I
believe
think
in
everybody
that,
should be
they would
made fun of
behave
in
well
to a
because
certain extent. They should be able to
society
criticize
deems that to be a good
thing.
all
that's-
kinds of
I
things.
mean, that's a
I mean, but that's what they would,
tenet of
that's what
free
they would
speech.
believe.
I would
Yes,
not.
yes.
No, I don't
To
think
criticize without openly insulting, without irrationally
If you were in
insulting.
Germany
so,
in
I mean,
But there's also
1939,
this line
that
where
society
people
would be telling you to do a whole load of things that were
right?
terrible.
In the
At least
1970s, I
and
think
stuff
this-
like that.
Yeah,
And
I don't
I'm
like hate
curious.
speech laws. I really don't like hate speech laws because at that point you just can't call, the state can call, listen,
society.
look at this situation. The state has some people it doesn't like, some people that speak against the
I
state.
think
The state implements
I don't
hate
ignore
speech
any of the
laws,
hate.
and the state says that those people have been
saying
practicing
that's
hate
what they
speech.
Oh, I'm sure there
And the
are some
state
people
frames
out there
those
who think
people
they're gay
for
and they're
hate
not.
speech
Right.
without
Who've got
any
psychiatric
other
problems, no question,
thing
yeah.
to frame them
And
for.
that may
That
offend
means
some gay
the
people
state can
if you
frame
say that, but I think
anybody
again,
they
it's
want.
true, tough,
Like the people in
you're
power
offended,
can just
I think
fuck everybody they
basically
don't like
people
because they say that they
self-defeating
practice hate speech.
Yeah.
And
We
it's a
often
very,
lie to
very bad
ourselves
way
about
to
who
go.
we are
I
and
think
our
that's
nature.
one of the
And
worst
it
ways
doesn't
for us to
surprise
go.
me that some people
And
being born
unfortunately, we
gay
have
kid themselves
hate
straight.
speech laws, almost laws, being very popular, especially in USA and Canada. And it's actually terrifying. Honestly, I find it terrifying.
So just explain that to me one more time.
you're
It's
born
terrifying
with a hand.
because
Because
people in power,
hate speech is something very, very, very subjective.
That hand
people
has
in
a
power
certain
basically
potential.
dictate what that is.
Your job
I
is
mean,
to make
I
sure
think
that
you
you
can
play
say
that hand with the best
there's a
potential
line
possible
for what constitutes
in order
hate
to
speech, right? Like
accommodate
if you're directly
you seeing
insulting
the world
someone,
most truthfully,
someone's
most
faith,
empathically to
for instance,
yourself
if you're
and
if you're
other
saying
people
all like,
and so,
you know, like
No,
Muslims
look,
should
if
go
I
to hell, or like,
criticize you, no, yeah, that's not nice. Still, I wouldn't call it hate speech. I would just say that that's being rude. That's verbally attacking the person. To verbally attack, yeah, verbal abuse, exactly. That's how I would call it. That shouldn't be tolerated. Yeah. But I don't like the word itself, hate speech. Just ticks me off a little bit because
In the same way,
you know,
it's better to be dealt the
hate
hand where you're ambidextrous.
it's not
than to be
something
dealt left-handed
that
or
should be
right-handed.
erased.
If I could choose to be born, I'd choose
Without
to be born
hate,
ambidextrous.
there is no perception
But I
of
don't
love.
expect someone to give me grief just because I got
And,
born
you know,
less than optimal.
There are
Gay
extremes.
people
Right.
But they are
happen to get
closer to
born
each other
less
than
optimal
indifference.
in a very
Right,
crucial
right.
area.
You know,
But we're all
the
born
opposite
less
of
than
love
optimal.
and of hate
The whole
is not
host of
themselves.
different
It's not the opposite of hate is
What's
not love,
important
and the
morally,
opposite of love is not hate.
from
The
my
opposite of both of them is indifference. It's the lack of
you achieve
feeling.
the potential of the hand.
That's the real
It's the
opposite.
left hand.
But
Well,
yeah, I'm kind of running away from the point.
No,
Sorry.
I see your point.
Yeah, but about hate speech again, about hate speech. I don't think we should meddle into hate speech. I think people should learn to not take the insults, because taking the insults is not bad in the society. You know, the bad thing is not you getting offended. The bad thing is people seeing you be abused and seeing the other person get away with it. That is the actual bad thing. Because if you are abused now and nobody does shit about it, nobody does anything about it, they will keep trying to abuse you because they feel that you
isn't
can.
that what hate laws?
This
Isn't that
lower
what
hand
hate,
of being
hate
attracted to the
laws
same sex.
attempt
Oh,
to
yeah,
do?
if you
But
believe
you,
in love,
listen, you should be free to hate,
then
but
that
you
will
shouldn't
make
be
sense,
able
which
to.
is another reality of
You
life
should be free to hate anybody you want.
Right,
That's
but
your
you
freedom.
just can't express it.
Yes. You can't express it, but you can't express it in a way that directly harms the other person. You can't just go around the street and start calling motherfucker to people, or piece of shit, or you bastard, you idiot,
I mean,
you stupid.
in my mind, that's what hate
Either God's
speech
taking the piss out of that person for some
aims
calming
to
reason,
prevent. right?
Or
Like,
else.
it
Hate
was-
speech
No, I
laws.
don't think
Hate
it's
speech- right, hate
I
speech
think,
laws.
I think
Still, I don't want to meddle into hate speech laws because when a person verbally insults another person, we already have laws against that.
Right.
Verbal
So we
slander
need to
is
call it
already
Two gay people
punishable
having
by
sex.
law.
Right.
If
Now,
you
to
go,
me, that feels
So, so
disgusting.
just you have an issue with the
you
term
also
because it sounds like
No,
because the term is more than what we have
If
now.
I imagine
Verbal
doing
abuse
it,
is punishable right now. It's punishable by law.
No, my
hate
feelings
speech
are if I
laws is
imagine
something
myself
more
having
than
sex
those
with a
laws.
guy, I feel
It means
good.
that you can basically call whatever the
No, but
hell
my
you want
feelings,
hate
not my moral
speech,
compass,
and you can
my
frame a
taste.
person for that.
It's like how,
Basically,
okay,
you can be a person who
people-
criticizes the
I
state,
know what you're saying.
and they will
people
call
can
you out
figure
for
to like
hate speech
take
because
that
you are
Some people
causing
can
trouble,
figure not to.
Yeah,
which
know.
I got
I get
in trouble once.
So
With
if
the
I
police, not in
imagine
trouble, I just was sent home because I was arguing with a bunch of socialists and in a protest, and they were really getting triggered at me.
Hey, when I imagine
I was
having
just
sex
asking
with
them
a
questions. I
girl,
wasn't being rude at all. And the police came to me, they took me away. I asked them, why am I being taken away? Why are you taking me away? Why are you not saying anything to them? Because they were insulting me. They were insulting me. I wasn't insulting them. And the police told me, because you're causing trouble. Which is the stupidest thing in the world.
See, that would happen.
Just by asking questions,
Yeah.
they want to take me away
What
because
happened
apparently
here
I'm doing hate speech.
would probably not happen in the US because that wouldn't constitute hate speech.
I hope it
Because people literally had rallies, like,
Well, there's a hell of a lot of judging.
anti-black.
You are. I mean, you know who you are.
Black?
Rallies.
You are. You're judging
They're
what
not
they're doing.
anti-black.
Oh, they are.
suboptimum, and then you're
That's-
saying,
I
No,
mean-
Trump rallies.
No,
I disagree. I'm not a Trump supporter, but I don't think Trump rallies are against blacks.
I'm talking about one specific incident.
I'm
which
looking
was
at it
very
as the beginning,
obviously racist.
there's stuff coming down the
Racist
river,
slurs
and
were being yelled out.
I'm looking at the
It also happened to be
And I'm
approached about. I think
using
this
it to
is
deduce
Charlottesville. You
what
may have
it's
heard
like
of what happened.
upriver.
I think it was in
The question is, am I
2017
getting
where
pure water
there's
coming
just
down
a mob
the
broke up.
river?
But basically, there was a black, a very viral video
If I
or
look at
a
the
photo
outputs, I
that
look at
came
things
out
like
that a black officer literally defending
I look at the gay
these,
thing, I
largely
look at
white
the
protesters. Basically saying really racist
and lots of
things.
things that are coming
so
down
the
the
incident you just
pipeline
described,
imply to me that maybe
it's
there's some
interesting that you
flaw
There are a lot of
said
miracles.
because that
There are a lot of
probably
miracles.
would not have happened in the US where a police officer would take you away from that scene and say, I mean, of course they had to break things up because it got physical.
Oh, they
and
didn't?
At that point,
They
no.
didn't. Ah, you mean
in the
with
US.
them?
Yeah.
Ah, in the US. I thought you were talking about my
No.
situation.
I don't know
I
about these.
understand.
Because nobody got physical. They were, they were insulting me, but there was no physical violence.
Right, the point where the police officer had to do the US when it got physical, right? Before that, it was just
When it gets
people
physical,
yelling
that's it.
racist
The
slurs.
police should have the right to
I
separate.
agree, but
Anything I want to believe
yeah,
in,
so
I should be more cautious
I just
about.
think it's curious because that would
I will
probably
naturally
would not have
bias
happened
if
to
I
you
want
if
to
you
find
were
the truth.
in
Wait, Father Christmas is Santa.
That would be good. That would
You
be
want to
I
good.
believe
think
in
we
that, yeah, you want to believe. I want to believe in the
to another
afterlife,
level,
therefore
like
I must
it's-
allow the fact that I'm probably a bit biased.
and I don't know if it's necessarily always right because I don't know how comfortable I would feel walking, in my neighborhood if I had a white, if I had
There's
a
enough
white
output
supremacist
coming down
rally
the
yelling
pipeline
racist
from
slurs
Israel.
against,
Well,
my.
I wouldn't be comfortable at all because I'm not British.
I think
You can find some good stuff in communism too.
I mean,
Yeah, well, I'll
I
take
don't.
the good
I failed to
But
see your
I'll
point.
take the good stuff from communism. I won't just damn communism.
So-
White
Anywhere there's
supremacists
some good
aren't
stuff,
only white
let's go get it.
supremacists.
Whatever
They are
religion it is,
mostly
or
supremacists for their own country.
essentially, let's just gather
Seeing that I'm a migrant from another country, don't you see hate against Eastern Europeans, against Germans, against French, against other countries?
How do you know?
It's not only about whites against blacks,
No.
Muslims
But
against
I'm
Christians.
giving you a
Whatever.
specific context.
Live
of
your
the
life
US,
the way you
right?
want to live it, but
I'm
you will
talking-
not find something.
What I'm trying to get at.
I would probably get slandered as a migrant. People don't need that much to hate you. All they need is an excuse. It can be white, black, brown, whatever. They will find an excuse. If they want to hate you for some reason, they will hate you, and you can't do anything about
In
it.
the U.S., the black and white divide is a little more entrenched, right?
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
we had slaves.
that the good and the true is
We allowed slavery
it's only an amorphous feeling,
of
but
black
it feels
people
to me-
until
I don't necessarily
the
think that that's-
18th century. Like it wasn't until the late 18th century or 19th century, sorry, where we actually managed to get rid of that. And even then, I mean, it was just strife with issues. So it's a little. So I see your point about hate people find whatever they can, but it's a little more deep rooted in the U.S., which makes it.
So if you pursue truth, you will end
Just
up
makes it a little more.
with the good.
It's a more sensitive situation.
you don't mind
the
asking,
American
do you
context.
live in London?
Yeah, but what do you want to do about it?
I mean, I think hate laws are a good way to protect.
Oh, for arguing
Hate speech laws are a good way to protect. I think
from America?
you need to be
I
careful.
will never agree with that.
We're going
Yeah.
back
I will never agree with
2 days.
that. Even when they are openly racist
We're
people,
just here for
I don't agree
weekend
with
or
hate
2 weeks.
laws. Because it just gives the
Yeah,
state
I was
an
saying to your
excuse
sister,
to
because it was American
exterminate
Muslims,
all opposition.
particularly in Trump
But
land, you must be
given
having a
the
fascinatingly
deep-seated
horrible
history
time.
between the whites and blacks,
I mean, I think
blacks
I think
are
media blows it out of
don't you think
proportion.
that
I
it's
don't think
important that
You
we
think
have?
blacks
I
are
don't think
being
it's that
treated
bad.
poorly now?
to be very honest.
I mean,
I mean,
so
it's
far
not
as
the
hate
best,
rallies
but
against
I
black
really-
people go, of course I
I think the
You
media
know about
blows it
Black
out of
Lives
proportion.
Matter?
Of course I know.
Do you agree with Black Lives Matter?
I agree
Oh
with.
no. No, I mean, I
Yes,
think
some of the
yeah, the
overarching
media isn't really
ideas.
fond of Trump. I mean, I'm not
I
fond of
can't,
him
I
either,
can't
but
begin to
I
disagree
wouldn't
with
say
Black
that.
Lives
Like,
Matter.
I don't want to victimize
They have
myself by
completely
saying that Trump
ridiculous
is like
ideas.
some
They want
dictator,
to
like,
create
Okay,
this.
there,
No,
I
look,
mean,
look.
there are
Like, that's not the
branches.
case.
The
then,
big
right?
problem
There
with
are
Black
many
Lives
chapters,
Matter
but I
is
think
that they hurt the
I
black
think
people
worst president
themselves.
America
Yeah,
has ever
They
had
hurt
by
the whites and they hurt the
He's
blacks.
going to be
Because they
going to be
want to
remembered as
create
one of the
this
worst.
ideology
Yeah.
that the whites need to keep feeling sorry and the blacks need to keep getting
one
stuff.
interpretation.
Huh?
I mean,
One interpretation.
you know,
I think
That's what Black
fundamentally,
Lives Matter
elected
wants.
for
I think
another term.
fundamentally
They want
what
cops
needs-
dead.
No,
They
no,
want to
no.
kill cops.
They want the lives of black people to matter
She did decide that.
as
She
much
did
as
mention that
it
she
does
would.
for other races and white people.
I don't
They
understand why
already-
everybody hates
I don't think so, given the number of
Yeah.
like black people that die at the hands of cops
Because
without
Bill
any.
lied
and
about
more
cops-
black
Bill
people
lying
commit
about
crimes.
Lewinsky, I think
That's,
was really bad. He should have told the truth.
In
Not
terms of
necessarily.
percentage of whites and percentage of blacks,
Yes, but then-
a bigger percentage
I mean,
of
I
blacks
voted
commit
for
crimes
it
than the
to,
percentage
you know,
of
lesser of two evils,
whites
right?
But
compared to the
proportionally-
absolute number.
Proportionally,
but-
black people are much more likely to get stopped by police
not- I mean,
officers
the Electoral
than white
College,
people.
the way-
That's
that's
not
how it
that number
works.
isn't proportional in
She didn't
terms
get the majority of votes,
who
but
gets.
the
Again,
Electoral
because
College
more black
decided
people
it.
commit
No,
crimes.
but there has to be like I mean,
But I
that-
mean,
you,
I don't know.
if that's
We'll
the
see what
case,
happens.
then proportionally white people would get stopped, as much as black people
It's going to
did.
take quite a bit of
In-
palate
in
cleansing.
Okay, look, I'm not going to
That
get
makes
very
sense.
into the
I mean-
proportions of being stuffed.
thing
But
is
what's
that-
wrong with being stuffed? Being stuffed is not being framed.
But then they're not only stopped, they're also more likely
I mean,
to be
the
shot,
good thing,
more
the
likely
good
to
thing
be
that
searched,
it
they're more
shows
likely.
that
I mean,
America can still.
okay, you might say.
Did you see videos? Did you
Maintain
see
at least
videos
to
of
some extent.
Yes.
I did
like
too.
a sense of self-respect.
Because they resist.
Not necessarily because of the president.
Because
but
they
like,
resist, because they
you know,
start
it's
saying,
still
oh
is
no,
able
you
to
can't
kind of
stop
hold
me, you
position
can't
of
stop
power
me.
even with
That's
like
not
a
an
clown in
excuse to
office.
shoot
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
someone.
No, no.
Okay,
If you
there's other ways
resist,
to
I love the bomb.
you can't resist.
Plenty of white
The
people.
policemen
Plenty
don't
of white
know.
people
He
resist.
was
Why
okay.
did
I
they get shot?
mean, he wasn't the best. I mean,
I
he
saw
also,
a few people of white
like
people
basically ordered like drone
and sometimes they
strikes,
resist.
a lot of,
You know,
They never
they
got
don't
shot.
really resist.
But they
And I
never
think
got
that's the
shot.
big difference, and that's
I
where
wouldn't.
Black
I think
Lives
that's.
Matter
I think that's
comes.
an
Once you
unfair
engage with an enemy and there is a
generalization.
problem
You can say that. You can
I
say
think
that.
that's you're just saying, oh well, all black people resist. That's why they get shot, and no white people resist. I mean, no.
I'm not
it's-
saying no or
or like.
Effective
I mean, it's just.
It's statistics. You can look it up for yourself. It's not very hard to find. Seriously.
I think we're lying to ourselves if
yeah,
we're saying
I don't believe in it.
there's absolutely no implicit bias
no war,
in the
like
decision
there's
of
no
a cop
such thing
to
as
pull
like
out the gun and
there's no such thing
shoot
as no
when
violence.
they see a
Obviously,
black
there will be
person.
violence.
I think there's
And in this world
there
that we live
is
in,
that
like,
fear
we need
that
to
stems
either
from
root
this
out, like,
idea of black people being
causes of
criminals,
violence,
and unfortunately, it has very real repercussions.
I mean,
and I think
Obama
what
did-
movements like
did,
Black Lives Matter tries to do
kind
is
of
it tries
have
to
a lot of
counter
collateral
that.
damage when
He tries to
ordered
make
Counter
blacks
that
the absolute
I mean, he was
victims
one of
and
the-
whites the
No, I
absolute
don't.
really know
You know,
much about
I
what he
really
did,
don't
but
like this
I know he
idea.
kind of
of
That's
increased
what they
the
defend.
frequency of drone
I don't know.
They want to
I
show
don't know if
blacks
they
And I
defend.
know a lot of
I
people
don't
objected
see-
to
I
that,
don't know if
and
they
I
defend
like
black
where
people
their
as
heart is.
victims.
but
I think
do.
my head
They actually
going.
harm the black community
and
much
it,
more.
and if it does seem like that, I think it's because they're victimized.
No, but like the thing is that's the collateral
Black Lives
damage.
Matter
Like,
is
you're killing,
composed
like,
in a
for
great
example,
part
the
by
fact that
cop
it's
killers
drugs.
and
No.
criminals.
Because
no,
They
no,
worship
no,
criminals.
no,
There was a
it's
guy
not-
who
it's
robbed
not
a
about
store
that.
and
It's
killed
just about
people.
bombing.
And he was black.
yeah.
He got
Now,
shot,
if you know
and they
there's
showed him
somebody in
as a
the building
martyr.
who will
How can you do
participate
that?
X number
Okay,
of
yeah,
deaths further down the line, and they should.
I can't.
But how do you,
agree.
okay,
Now
okay,
you've
that's
got
one
one of those
example.
choices.
How
If
do
I
you
drop a
explain
bomb
the number
now,
of like
10
teenagers
innocent
who've
people
been
die.
who've been just
If I don't,
There are
ever
serious
further down the
problems
line,
in the black
probably
community in America.
50
I mean, there need to be things done about it.
And then that's an equation
There
to
need
grapple
to be
with. is all
some
I'm
things
saying.
that
I'm not
need
sure
to
how
be
you
done
answer
about
And
it.
unfortunately,
that's
the
kind of-
government
that's-
doesn't seem to care enough.
It's very.
Yeah, because
I
the
don't know.
government wants to make
I wouldn't say that's
black
like a
people
really
suffer.
good
It
thing
doesn't
because
care
like then
about
you're
that.
you're,
but it's not.
you're reducing the value of the 10 lives.
Yeah,
You
I know
basically
that
just
you care.
gave me a reason
Do you
to
know
say,
the,
well,
yes,
moral
but
movements like Black Lives Matter should exist.
Black
The one about the
Lives
point.
Matter doesn't help that.
one
Black
with the
Lives
train.
Matter is actually made by some people, by some rich people,
It's used in
to make
philosophy.
blacks
It
more
is.
vulnerable.
I'd like to ask them as well.
To
and
make
then I
blacks
am
more
yeah,
vulnerable
actually.
to the whole situation.
Unless they're
to
on
the
a
whole-
fascinating one.
to make the stereotype
He'll
live
know
on.
this one.
You
I'm
know
wondering what
Candace
his answer
Owens?
No.
You never heard of her? She's a very intelligent woman. You should look up some of her speeches. And Black Lives Matter hate her. They despise her because she tries giving black people the option of being strong and to achieve their own
Modern history.
to have their own achievements. To fight for something better, not to be the victims, not to say, "Oh,
Talking
you were
about Black Lives Matter.
enslaving my ancestors and stuff." All
Yeah.
races were enslaved at
You were a
some
fan of
point.
Jordan Peterson?
All
Yeah,
races in
okay,
the world.
yeah. I very
Right,
much
but
at
it's-
the
All races.
metaphysical level.
And blacks were not
when he
enslaved,
strays into politics,
especially
still for the most
more than
part, yes,
others.
but I
Yeah.
think he's got overly cautious.
If you
with
talk
it.
about slavery, you
And
can talk
there are
about the
certain areas
Roman
I think he's got a
Empire,
couple of
you
blind
can talk
spots,
about
but overall I still think
the
he's
Greeks,
against
you can talk
postmodernism
about
and Me
the
Too.
Arabs,
I
you
don't
can
think
talk
it's
about the
falling out of the
Europeans, you
whole
can talk
belief
about
that there is right
many,
and
many
wrong.
different
Okay.
the
Okay.
Chinese, the
And he thinks
Mongolians,
rooted in a
Genghis
lot
Khan
of
himself
beliefs
was
and
a slave,
I'm a big
a
fan
large
of
amount
the,
of his
the repercussions are a lot more like recent.
I mean, he's one of the
or
better
it's
philosophers.
more recent in our
Yeah,
in our
I'm really liking.
history
I'm liking
in the
Sam
US,
Harris
and
as
it's
well,
just-
who he'll argue with watching them. I mean, you probably
there
want
are
to see
people
Ghost
whose
Muslims,
great
but
great
Sam
Harris,
Harris
yeah.
is.
they haven't
They're very
counted,
close.
you know, and it's
When
just-
they debate, I like
It's
nearly
just
all of them
what-
in
it's a
different
lot-
ways.
live the life you've been given now. Don't live the life
I
of
like
your
Ben Shapiro,
ancestors.
except for
My
sometimes he's
listen,
dishonest and I
10
get
million
the
Ukrainians
that
were
he needs to be.
exterminated
It's not
by the
serious,
Soviet
actually.
Union
too
in a
impressed
mass
with
famine, mass extermination, worse than what they did with the Jews. Nobody talks about it. No, Ukrainians, 10 million Ukrainians were starved to death during Stalin's rule.
Oh yeah, no, Stalin killed more people than the Nazis.
Stalin
did.
killed many more people than the Nazis. Mao killed more people.
Yeah, Mao
Zedong
did
killed
allegedly
more people
60
than
to
Lenin and
100,000.
Stalin together. Now that's a big number. He killed about 80 million Chinese during the Cultural Revolution. Nobody talks about it because you can't criticize socialism.
Well, you should criticize.
You should
over-
criticize
always
everything.
speak the truth.
Now, my
Can
point
I-
is,
oh, you got it, okay.
we have atrocities done way closer to us, way less time ago than what was done to the blacks. And I don't support it, but that was just the kind of time they were living through.
Right.
Some people were slaves during that time. You can't apply modern day morality
well, on that.
to.
Yes,
to,
you can.
to
Yes,
no,
you
you
can.
can't.
Yes, you can.
No, you
Yes, you
can't.
can.
No,
Yes,
I
you can.
greatly disagree with that.
Okay, can I break this down then? Okay, I think we were talking about this before about context. We were saying the idea that God would change the rules in history is crazy. Whatever are the divine rules, we believe should be eternal for all people for all time in the past and the future. You don't believe that. But
Morality is not eternal.
Okay, I know
Morality
you believe-
changes from the circumstances.
No, people's perception of it changes.
And circumstances
I haven't
change
used the
too.
mountain analogy with him, and I don't want to bore you again, but I use the mountain analogy anyway. Okay? Here's how I think it goes. You know when you go to court, two things happen. You have a jury and you have a judge. The jury work out the facts of the case. The judge then adjudicates in context how the punishment should be handed out. I think the facts of the case are it's always wrong to throw people in a gladiatorial arena to be eaten alive by lions. That's always wrong. But, so on the x-axis, a jury should always say that's wrong. But on the y-axis, a judge would take into consideration the culture and the time and punish you less heavily. The same thing applies with slavery. Slavery was always wrong. But I can understand in the time of slaves why people would be more prone to that. And I'd be less down on them. I'd expect a judge to punish them less. Because there'd be so many mitigating circumstances about their culture. If someone's peddling slaves now, they deserve their ass kicking far heavier. Because you now know more data. But slavery was always wrong. You think slavery was right.
And it's a very hard, it's a very hard thing for me to say. For him to say slavery was always wrong, and for me to say I disagree.
Yeah,
it sounds
no.
horrible. It sounds terrible. It
it's
sounds like
horrible.
I'm supporting slavery. But let me explain
Well,
this.
do you understand my
can't see
ration-
the
do you understand
world.
my rationale?
You can't see the world. And we had this long ideological, philosophical conversation. So I know you will understand what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You can't see the world as goody good and baddy bad. That's it. You can't see the world
don't.
like that.
I see it
you
as a
do.
spectrum.
You're saying no. You just said that slavery was always wrong.
I believe that slavery always falls short of the optimum.
There were times in human history when slavery was practically inevitable.
Just because it's inevitable doesn't mean it's right. Okay, I think
It was inevitable for the evolution, for the progression of human civilization.
I believe in the vitra, which means I believe there is an optimum that you should aim for, an optimum, and I believe slavery has always fallen short of the optimum and always will. Okay,
Why do we never speak about the slaves that the Romans had?
I just did. I'm covering all slaves.
but
always.
listen.
The
My
choice to
point is-
subjugate another person in the way that a master does with a slave will always fall short of the master's potential for treating other people well. They will always be making a low-grade assessment of the other person, going, I think you're a disposable object that I should utilise for my own. And that choice, whoever makes it throughout history, is a low-grade choice.
Well,
This
first
becoming
of
a
all,
two-hander?
this is a funny conversation because we're
Let's
talking.
go with
Can I check? Okay, can I check? No, I think this one is a big, but you'll be coming back, won't you?
Huh?
Here. You come back here?
Yeah, come here every.
I'll come back here. You'll come. These guys are going to be
How long
leaving.
have you guys been
so-
coming here?
which is a shame.
A few months,
Yeah.
really?
I'm kind of in a gap year right now, so I might be back in the spring, but yeah. I
'cause they're
might
going
come
in
by.
2
No, but
days.
listen, these guys don't have any problems by being slaves to the god.
Okay, bigger one. Can I chuck out one moral question to everybody,
let's do
because
that.
then I think I'm going to have to go home. And either you already know. You know the one with the train and the points, the moral choice one?
Yes,
He knows it. Okay.
I know it.
Okay, I'm just wondering what they say as well.
I think
yeah?
I think
Oh, you know it.
I don't
then-
know what would you
Yeah,
stop
explain
the
it.
Oh,
train?
then you know as well. Fine. I just want. You don't know.
No, just go ahead and
Oh, he'll probably tell it better than I will. Who wants to
Go-
tell it?
go
Anyone
on,
wanna
go
tell it? Okay, so the moral choice is you're standing
Yeah, you
By
have the
a rail-
power to
by a
change
railway
the,
line?
the way the train goes. Okay, I'll explain.
Okay.
You like the train is going, and you are standing in the place that you have, you know, the lever. If you pull the lever, the train changes direction. There are two ways the train can go. The one way is a few people are there, a few innocent people, and in the other way is somebody you love. Is that the one?
No.
That's
Okay,
not
fine.
the example.
Okay, no, fine. The initial
You're giving
one.
the
Okay,
different
all right.
example.
The initial
Sorry.
one is you're standing at the point. The train is going to come. If the train keeps going, it's going to run over 5 people who are working the track. Kill 5 people you don't know.
Oh,
But
yeah.
If you switch the point,
It's a slightly
it
different.
will go right and only kill one person.
One person. Yeah.
So the question
Do you
is,
stain your hands with
do
the blood?
you interfere or not?
You interfere.
Left to its own devices, the train will kill 5. If you act,
Yeah.
you will cause one person
Yeah,
to die.
but
Should
who are
watch
you
it?
to judge in the end? If those 5 lives are worth more than
That's the
one
first
life.
level of the question, and there's a second question which you're asked, and you compare the two. Your two
What's the second-
reactions.
what's the second
Well, what's your answer to the first
My
one?
first one,
I'm interested in what all of your
it's really
answers
hard.
are. to the
I
first
mean,
one.
I would probably change it.
I personally feel I should change
I would
it as
change
well.
it,
Yeah,
yes.
I feel I should change it.
I think I don't. You're not allowed to give a
I don't know.
complicated answer to the question, are you? I'm
No,
just
that's the first level question that they ask. What would you do? What
I
do you
mean-
think you should do ideally? I think ideally I probably should.
Yes.
I think I'm being faced with a choice between
I mean,
5
let's-
people die or 1 person dies.
I
I'm
would
cognizant
100%
of that
choose.
fact.
I have absolutely no knowledge whatsoever about anything about those people,
Yeah.
then I will choose to kill one person.
Okay. I'm actually impressed by the idea, but if he's your buddy, you'll kill 5 people is actually
Yeah,
depressing.
that's-
but
No, that's not it. That's not if he's my buddy or not. I mean,
it is.
I might change my.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I might.
Okay,
I
but
might.
anyway,
I'm not saying I won't because I'm not made of stone.
Okay.
But the thing, my point is, if the person there is, for example, some kind of a very great person.
No, they're all
of a-
equal. They're all
of a-
equal for the
They're
point.
all equal.
They're all, they have to be. Okay, so then the second
Then I
level
choose the one
question they
person.
ask, which is effectively the same question phrased differently, but what they notice is the audience, some people change their mind now. The question
Yeah.
is, why do you change your mind? The second question, you know this, is now imagine it's different. Now imagine the train is going along the thing and you're on a bridge above there, yeah? Hanging and standing above the train is a very fat person looking down from the bridge, right? Now, your options are, if you push him over the thing, he'll land on the platform and he'll stop the train from killing 5 people. Okay? Now, what would you do? Okay?
man.
Now, what's interesting is if your answer now is no, I wouldn't push him.
Now, what's
Because
interesting
if
is
you
how
wouldn't
will I
push
push a
him, why
person
is
fat
that
enough to
different?
stop the fucking train?
Is it just because suddenly you feel more hands-on in doing it? What is it? That was the question.
I probably won't be able to push him, man.
Yeah,
that guy is made of titanium
No,
or something.
No, hang on, no, that you no. I may not.
He'll shrug me off
Okay,
like
the
a
same
bug.
question. What do you think you should do? Then what do you think you would do? I think moving the lever in the first example is easier for me emotionally.
I think that's what you
Physically pushing a person is harder for me emotionally.
Yes.
Both examples feel the same. Therefore, I think I should be answering the same to both.
Yeah.
of them. So I should be willing, I believe I should be willing to push the fat guy. In practice, I may not have the balls, but I think I should have the balls.
Yeah, it's very different to shoot someone or to strangle someone.
Yeah, is
It's
that the
very
only
different.
difference, or is there a real difference because you actually push the real physical person? I don't think there's a difference.
I think it's a bigger, it's a bigger hit on your conscience when you have to physically kill someone.
There's also this idea of chance, I think, in the first instance, right? Where like maybe the person on the second track is going to move out of the way.
No. You have to know for sure they will get squashed.
No, but look.
I think, but it makes it harder.
Oh,
to
yeah. In your
justify.
imagination, you're not sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it may be that.
Imagine that Mao Zedong had to kill 80 million people by strangling them. Now imagine the hit on his mentality if he had to do that. He would go crazy after 100. I can assure you of that. He would go crazy after maybe 200,
You've got a
300.
very gruesome imagination, haven't you?
Okay.
You've done
No, but
fingernails
just
being pulled
think
out.
about
You've done
it.
a lot of very dark stuff, which I like. I think
You know,
it's good to
you
do.
need to delve into darkness
I agree.
sometimes to understand.
No, I think you do. I think you're right. I think you're right.
But
I also need to delve into food and home, I think, which at this point.
Soon,
but listen, you I'll probably see again down here. I'll give you a go. I've got so many of these printed.
Thanks.
Very interesting pleasure to meet you. You guys have
You can share that one.
share that, or you can have one each. I printed
Okay,
way
let's
too
do
many
that
of them.
Printed a lot of them.
Well, it's actually
Thanks.
for
A lot
script,
of them.
but that's
So I didn't catch your name.
Tony.
Tony, I'm Miriam.
Miriam.
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you as well.
Really, very
Yeah, you
nice
said Pablo,
and
right?
was
Nice
it
to
Neil?
meet you.
Huh?
What was it again?
Tony.
Tony. Okay.
Tony.
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah.
Pablo.
So,
I always find Americans
Pablo.
are really polite and nice when they come over. And
really?
Yeah, seriously.
We're friendlier than the British, I think. We're
Yeah,
just more,
Yeah.
There's a
more
certain
outgoing,
kind of
right?
British person who goes, Americans are so loud and rash. No, they're generally very polite and rude and civil and much nicer than we are, and I don't get where this comes from. True.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's a pleasure, really. And you,
It's a fact.
you I will see anon. You guys,
See you next time.
Take it easy. Bye. Nice to meet you.
Are you
Nice
guys
to
leaving
meet you.
too?
We're gonna leave soon. Yeah.
Are you gonna head out?
I might stay here for a little bit longer, but I'm gonna leave soon too. What time is it?
10 o'clock.
Is it 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock.
We were debating for hours.
No, I'm leaving.
Yeah, we gotta leave.
Content over everything. From your belly. Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. Listen.
we disagree on that hierarchy. Maybe we're getting stuck in full.
No, my point is where, when you make the claim we're equal, where is the equality in the layer of the stack?
The equality is the fact that you have an inner world and consciousness.
So you
in the
take part
first
in
place.
it. Does it down? Do you understand how consciousness works in the brain?
I know you dissect consciousness, but I'm saying this because then you'll end up in a deeper philosophical argument about theology and a whole lot of stuff, which is fun.